Deep space is not silent. It is actually screaming with radiation. But for decades, humanity has been listening for a specific kind of whisper buried in the static. We built massive ears of metal and wire, pressing them against the fabric of the cosmos, desperate to know if we are truly alone in this infinite graveyard. Most of what we hear is just the background hum of the universe dying, the remnants of the Big Bang, or the violent deaths of distant stars. But every once in a while, the data spikes in a way that defies natural explanation, suggesting that something or someone is trying to break the silence. Imagine the atoms in your own body vibrating to a frequency sent from a star system that human eyes cannot even see without powerful assistance. For years, astronomers stared at paper printouts and digital screens, waiting for a pattern that would prove we are not merely accidental biology on a lonely rock. The terror of the search is not in finding nothing. The true terror lies in the possibility of finding something that we were never meant to hear. On a humid night in August 1977, the silence was shattered, not by a sound, but by a sequence of characters that chilled the blood of the man who found them. The Big Ear radio telescope in Ohio was scanning the sky, performing its routine duty, when the intensity of the signal suddenly jumped off the charts. It came from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, a dense region of our galaxy where the stars are thick and the mysteries are profound. The signal was 30 times louder than the background noise of deep space, a piercing scream across the void that demanded immediate and terrified attention. Astronomer Jerry Eman looked at the alphanumeric code on the printout, circling 6 distinct characters with a red pen that would become legendary history. He wrote a single word in the margin, "Wow!" a reaction that captured the mixture of scientific excitement and existential dread that the data represented. The sequence 6EQUJ5 describes the intensity variation of the signal over time, a bell curve that perfectly matched the profile of the telescope's antenna. This perfect shape meant the source was not terrestrial. It was a fixed point in the stars that the Earth's rotation had swept our telescope past. The signal lasted exactly 72 seconds, which is precisely the amount of time the Big Ear could observe any single point in the sky given the rotation of our planet. This implies the signal didn't stop. We simply turned away from it, like a spinning top looking away from a spotlight that was shining directly at us. The frequency was 1420 MHz, the resonant frequency of hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe, often called the cosmic water hole. Scientists have long theorized that if an intelligent species wanted to communicate across the dark, they would use this specific frequency as a universal greeting. Furthermore, this frequency is protected by international law for astronomical purposes, meaning no human transmitter should have been broadcasting there, adding to the mystery. The implications were staggering. Someone or something had sent a narrowband radio signal with the power of a continuous gigawatt transmitter directly at our solar system. To generate a signal that's strong from such a vast distance requires energy capabilities that far exceed anything human civilization could produce at that time. We rushed to turn the telescopes back, desperate to catch the whisper again to confirm that we weren't just hallucinating patterns in the cosmic noise. But when we looked back at that spot in Sagittarius, there was nothing but the cold, indifferent silence of the vacuum staring back at us. The signal was gone, vanishing as quickly as it had appeared, leaving us with a ghost story written in radio waves and statistical anomalies. For decades, we have pointed our most advanced instruments at those coordinates, listening for a repeat, a confirmation, or even a goodbye. The silence that followed is perhaps more terrifying than the signal itself, because it suggests the event was a singular, calculated moment in time. Skeptics tried to explain it away as a secret military satellite, but the physics of the signal's orbit and frequency made that explanation mathematically impossible. Others suggested it was a pair of comets surrounded by hydrogen clouds, a theory that held weight until modern analysis debunked it completely. Comets move, and the signal came from a fixed point in the star field. The source was stationary relative to the background stars, not our solar system. We are left with the uncomfortable reality that the most logical explanation for the WOW signal remains a transmission from an extraterrestrial intelligence. If it was a message, we missed the beginning and we missed the end. We only caught a fleeting fragment of a conversation not meant for us. Or worse, perhaps it was a lighthouse beam sweeping the galaxy, and we just happened to look up at the exact second the light hit our eyes. The distance to the source star candidates is roughly 1/800 light-years, meaning the signal was sent nearly 2 millennia before it arrived at our planet. When that signal was transmitted, the Roman Empire was at its height, and humanity had no concept of radio waves or the vastness of the galaxy. This introduces the element of time travel into our cosmic horror. We are interacting with ghosts who may have died out long before we heard them. If a civilization had the power to send such a beacon, where are they now, and why have they fallen so completely silent in the centuries since? The Fermi paradox asks, where is everybody? And the wow signal might be the only answer we ever get. We were here, but now we are gone. There is also the darker possibility proposed by the dark forest theory, that they realized transmitting was a mistake and immediately cut the feed. In a universe filled with predators, shouting into the darkness is a death sentence, and maybe the wow signal was the last mistake of a dying world. We have analyzed the coordinates again with the Very Large Array and the Meta instrument, hoping that modern technology can find what 1970s technology could not. But the sky remains stubbornly silent at 1420 MHz, mocking our curiosity and leaving us with data that refuses to fit into any natural model. This anomaly stands as the single most compelling piece of evidence for alien technology, yet it is singular, unrepeatable, and therefore scientifically maddening. It forces us to confront the fragility of our knowledge. How much of the universe's history have we missed simply because we weren't looking at the right second? The signal did not contain complex data, or at least none that we could decode. It was simply a blast of raw power, a cosmic shout. Some astronomers lie awake at night wondering if the modulation was too subtle for the big ear to catch, meaning we missed the actual message. We are like ants trying to understand a fiber optic cable. We see the light, but we lack the biology to comprehend the internet flowing through it. As we prepare to dive deeper into the physics of this event, remember that in space, a single anomaly can dismantle our entire understanding of reality. We must peel back the layers of this mystery, not just as scientists, but as detectives investigating a crime scene that spans thousands of light years. The numbers don't lie, and the numbers tell us that something happened in Sagittarius that should not have been possible under the standard model of isolation. To understand the gravity of the situation, we must first dismantle the specific frequency that was detected, 1420 MHz. This is not a random number pulled from the chaotic static of the universe. It is the fundamental hum of existence itself. In the language of astrophysics, this is known as the hydrogen line or the 21-centimeter line, and it represents the most abundant element in the cosmos singing its own song. Hydrogen makes up roughly 75% of the observable mass of the universe, forming the massive clouds from which stars are born and the nebulas where they die. When the electron in a neutral hydrogen atom flips its spin state, a quantum event that happens naturally over millions of years, it releases a photon with a wavelength of exactly 21 centimeters. For decades, scientists like Giuseppe Cocconi and Philip Morrison argued that if an intelligent species wanted to establish contact across the galactic void, they would choose this frequency as a universal meeting point. It is a standard channel, a cosmic water hole, where all sentient species would theoretically gather to drink from the fountain of knowledge. Finding a signal right here, at this precise mathematical juncture, is akin to walking into a dense, uninhabited jungle and finding a perfectly tuned grand piano playing a concerto in the middle of the clearing. It suggests intent, it suggests knowledge, and most terrifyingly, it suggests that someone knew exactly where we would be listening. The investigation into the wow signal begins with the physics of the spin-flip transition, a quantum mechanical phenomenon that is incredibly rare for a single atom but deafening when aggregated across the galaxy. A single hydrogen atom might wait 10 million years to spontaneously flip its electron spin and emit this specific photon. But because there are so many hydrogen atoms in the interstellar medium, the 1420 MHz signal is omnipotent, creating a background hiss that permeates the sky. Radio astronomers map the galaxy by listening to this hiss, tracing the arms of the Milky Way by tracking the density of hydrogen clouds. However, what makes the wow signal an anomaly is not just the frequency but the bandwidth. Natural emissions of hydrogen are broad and diffuse, spread out over a wide range of frequencies due to the Doppler shifting of moving gas clouds, temperature variations, and cosmic turbulence. Nature is messy. It paints with a wide brush, smearing energy across the spectrum like spilled ink. The WOW signal, by contrast, was incredibly narrow, less than 10 kilohertz wide. It was a laser-sharp needle of radio energy piercing through the broad chaos of the background noise. In the entire history of radio astronomy, we have never observed a natural phenomenon that can compress that much energy into such a tight frequency band. This is the hallmark of artificial engineering, the signature of a transmitter built to cut through the static and deliver a message with surgical precision. Let us deepen the mystery by examining the concept of the cosmic water hole in greater detail, because it explains why the investigative team at Ohio State was so shaken by the printout. The frequency range between 1420 MHz, the emission of hydrogen, or H, and 1662 MHz, the emission of hydroxyl, or OH, is exceptionally quiet in terms of cosmic background noise. When you combine hydrogen H and hydroxyl OH, you get H2O, water, the basis of life as we know it. This poetic coincidence led astronomers to dub this radio band the water hole, a quiet valley in the electromagnetic spectrum where the noise from the galaxy is lowest and the atmosphere of Earth is most transparent. It is the logical place for civilizations to meet. If you were lost in a dark forest and wanted to be found, you wouldn't scream during a thunderstorm. You would wait for the silence and blow a whistle. The WOW signal appeared exactly in this silence, near the 1420 line. The fact that the signal was narrowband and located precisely at this frequency is a double coincidence that defies statistical probability. It forces us to ask, was this a beacon specifically designed to be found by a civilization that understands the significance of water and hydrogen? Or are we projecting our own human logic onto a universe that operates on entirely different alien principles? The precision of the frequency implies a shared scientific language, a hello sent in the universal code of atomic physics. We must now turn our attention to the instrument that acted as the witness to this cosmic event, the Big Ear radio telescope. Unlike the dish antennas you see in movies, the Big Ear was a massive, stationary structure resembling a flat parking lot of wire mesh and steel, longer than 3 football fields. It did not have a motor to steer it. It relied entirely on the rotation of the Earth to scan the sky. This is a critical piece of evidence in the investigation, because it dictates exactly how a signal should look if it originates from deep space. As the Earth turns, the telescope's field of view sweeps across the celestial sphere at a constant rate. A point source, like a star or a distant transmitter, would enter the telescope's beam, gradually increase in intensity as it moved to the center, peak, and then gradually decrease as it moved out. This process, determined by the geometry of the antenna and the speed of Earth's rotation, takes exactly 72 seconds. If the signal were a glitch in the computer, a loose wire, or terrestrial interference, it would likely turn on and off abruptly, creating a square wave or a random spike. It would not follow the gentle, mathematical slope of a bell curve. The WOW signal followed this bell curve perfectly. It rose and fell in direct correlation with the Earth's rotation, which provides the strongest possible evidence that the source was fixed in the stars, unmoving relative to the background of the galaxy, and not a local interference. The specific data notation that Jerry Eamon circled, 6EQUJ5, is often misunderstood by the public, so we need to decode this forensic evidence to understand the magnitude of the energy involved. The Big Ear's computer, an ancient IBM 1130, did not have the storage capacity to record the raw audio or the full wave data. Instead, it sampled the signal intensity every 12 seconds and assigned a single alphanumeric character to represent that intensity relative to the background noise. A space meant background noise. Numbers 1 through 9 represented increasing intensity above the noise floor. Letters A through Z represented even higher intensities. The sequence 6EQUJ5 translates to a rapid escalation in signal strength. 6 is significantly above noise. E is higher. Q is massive. U was the highest intensity recorded in the sequence, roughly 30 standard deviations above the background noise. J and 5 show the signal fading away as the telescope swept past. The character U represents a signal strength that is practically screaming. For a radio telescope designed to pick up the faint whispers of dying galaxies, hitting a U is like a seismometer detecting a nuclear detonation. This wasn't a whisper, it was a shout. The fact that the intensity peaked and then subsided symmetrically confirms the beam profile of the telescope. This wasn't a random burst. It was a continuous, powerful beam that we passed through, like a ship sailing through a lighthouse beam in the fog. The two horns problem creates a paradox that has haunted investigators for decades, introducing a chilling possibility about the nature of the transmission. The Big Ear telescope used two feed horns, essentially two separate microphones, positioned slightly apart to capture signals. Because of the Earth's rotation, any source in the sky should pass through one horn first, and then, roughly 3 minutes later, pass through the second horn. This is a fundamental verification method. If you see a star in the left eye, you should see it in the right eye a moment later. The "wow" signal, however, was detected in only one of the horns. The data does not definitively tell us which one, but we know it did not repeat in the second horn 3 minutes later. This implies one of two scenarios, both of which are unsettling. Scenario A. The signal was a constant transmission that abruptly cut off exactly in the narrow window between the two horns. Scenario B. The signal was a brief, targeted burst that just happened to fire at the exact moment our first horn was listening, and then went silent. This transient nature suggests intelligent control. A natural phenomenon like a nebula doesn't just switch off in a matter of seconds. A transmitter does. It feels less like a continuous beacon and more like a tactical beam that was swept across us and then deactivated or redirected. Let us rule out the terrestrial suspects that usually plague radio astronomy: aircraft, satellites, and space debris. In 1977, the sky was far less crowded than it is today, but it was still populated by military and communication hardware. However, the laws of physics provide a concrete alibi for these suspects. A signal coming from a moving object near Earth, like an airplane or a satellite, would exhibit a Doppler drift. Just as the sound of a passing ambulance siren changes pitch as it moves past you, the frequency of a radio signal from a moving satellite would shift as it traversed the telescope's beam. The WOW signal, however, showed no detectable frequency modulation. It remained locked at 1,420.4556 MHz, give or take the measurement error, for the entire duration. This stability indicates that the source was not moving relative to the stars. It was pinpoint stationary at celestial coordinates, moving only with the celestial sphere. Furthermore, the 1,420 MHz band is a protected spectrum reserved solely for astronomy. While military entities do break rules, building a transmitter that mimics the precise beam profile of a distant star, matches the hydrogen line perfectly, and stays geostationary relative to the galaxy is an absurdity. The secret satellite theory falls apart under the weight of the data. The signal came from outside our atmosphere, outside our solar system, and very likely outside our local neighborhood of stars. One of the most prominent attempts to explain the WOW signal through natural means came decades later with the comet hypothesis, proposed by astronomer Antonio Paris. The theory was elegant in its simplicity. In 1977, two comets, 266P Christensen and 335P Gibbs, were passing through the vicinity of the Sagittarius constellation. Comets are surrounded by massive clouds of hydrogen gas as the sun heats their icy cores. Paris suggested that the Big Ear telescope picked up the radio emissions from these hydrogen clouds, solving the mystery with a simple ball of dirty ice. The media loved this explanation. It wrapped up a terrifying mystery with a neat, safe bow. It told us that we were alone, that the universe wasn't shouting at us, just shedding gas. However, the scientific community, particularly the team at the Ohio State University Radio Observatory, dismantled this theory with brutal efficiency. The data simply did not match. Comets do emit hydrogen signals, but they are diffuse and broad, not the sharp narrowband spikes seen in the WOW signal. Furthermore, the position of the comets in 1977 was calculated to be too far away from the specific coordinates of the signal. The comet hypothesis was a desperate attempt to find comfort in the mundane, but the math refused to cooperate. The mystery remained open, bleeding possibilities into the void. We must also consider the technological limitations of 1977, which act as both a curse and a blessing for this investigation. The Big Ear was scanning a specific declination of the sky, -27 degrees, in the constellation Sagittarius. Because the data was recorded on paper and the computer had limited memory, we lost the fine-grained details that a modern digital signal processor would have captured. We don't have a recording of the sound of the signal. We don't have the polarization data, which would have told us if the signal was structured or random. We only have the intensity profile. This lack of data allows skeptics to argue that it was a system glitch, a quote, in the machine. But Jerry Eman and the staff at the observatory spent months analyzing the hardware. They checked for loose cables, faulty resistors, and software bugs. They found nothing that could replicate the specific characteristics of the signal. The glitch theory requires a malfunction so incredibly specific, one that mimics the Earth's rotation and the hydrogen frequency perfectly, that the malfunction itself would be a statistical miracle. We are forced to trust the observation because the machinery was too simple to lie in such a complex way. Sometimes, primitive tools are the most honest witnesses because they lack the capacity to fabricate elaborate falsehoods. The location of the signal, the constellation Sagittarius, is itself a piece of the puzzle that raises the hair on the back of astronomers' necks. This region is not looking out into the empty void of intergalactic space. It is looking inward, toward the heart of our own Milky Way galaxy. The line of sight passes through the Scutum Centaurus arm, a region dense with stars, dust, and potential solar systems. Specifically, the coordinates point toward the star cluster M55, roughly 17,600 light-years away, as well as several closer Sun-like stars within a few hundred light-years. If the signal came from the galactic center, the power required to reach us would be astronomical, requiring a Kardashev Type II civilization capable of harnessing the entire energy of a star. If it came from a closer star, say 1,000 light-years away, it would still require a transmitter roughly 20,000 times more powerful than the Arecibo radar, our most powerful broadcast ever sent. This suggests that whoever sent it was not just slightly more advanced than us. They were technologically superior to a degree that we can barely comprehend. We are not talking about a civilization that just invented radio. We are talking about masters of energy who can treat the galaxy as their backyard. The concept of a narrowband signal is crucial to the argument for artificiality, so let us use an analogy to visualize the evidence. The universe creates radio waves constantly, pulsars, quasars, the turbulent gas of the interstellar medium. But these sources are broadband, like a messy splash of paint across a canvas. They cover a wide range of frequencies simultaneously. Static on a radio is broadband. A specific radio station, like 101.5 FM, is narrowband. It concentrates all its energy into a tiny slice of the dial to be clear and distinct. The WOW signal was less than 10 kHz wide. Natural astrophysics does not know of a mechanism that can naturally generate such a pure, concentrated tone. Even the most coherent natural masers, microwave lasers, found in space have a spectral width much broader than what was observed. To find a signal this thin in the wild is like finding a perfectly straight line drawn in a desert of shifting sands. Nature does not draw straight lines, intelligence does. This narrowband characteristic is the primary reason why, even after 40 years of scrutiny, the extraterrestrial hypothesis remains the most scientifically robust explanation, despite how uncomfortable it makes us feel. The implications of the signal's intensity, 30 standard deviations above the noise, cannot be overstated when we consider the inverse square law. Radio waves, like light, spread out as they travel, losing intensity exponentially with distance. For a signal to arrive at Earth with that much punch after traveling hundreds or thousands of light-years, the original transmission must have been colossal. If the signal was omnidirectional, meaning they broadcast it in all directions like a light bulb, the energy requirement would rival the total output of the sun. It is far more likely that the signal was beamed, focused like a laser directly at us. But this leads to an even more disturbing thought. If they beamed it at us, they had to know we were here. But in 1977, humans had been broadcasting radio for less than a century. Our radio bubble had barely left our immediate solar neighborhood. A civilization 1,000 light-years away could not possibly have known we existed yet, as our first radio signals wouldn't reach them for another 900 years. This paradox suggests that if they targeted us, it wasn't because they heard our radio, it was because they saw our sun and identified it as a candidate for life long before we invented technology. We were on a list of potential habitats being scanned by an automated system. Let's explore the lighthouse theory further, as it offers a solution to why the signal never repeated. Imagine a civilization that builds a massive beacon to scan the galaxy for other life, sweeping a narrow beam across the plane of the Milky Way like a lighthouse guiding ships. The beam rotates, hitting star system after star system. On August 15, 1977, that beam swept across Earth. For 72 seconds, we were illuminated by their searchlight. Then, the beam moved on to the next star, and then the next. Depending on the rotation speed of their beacon and the number of stars they are targeting, it might take centuries or millennia for the beam to return to Earth. We might be waiting for a ping that operates on a geologic timescale, not a human one. This would explain why all our subsequent searches have failed. We are staring at a dark ocean, waiting for a lighthouse flash that circles the globe only once every 1,000 years. We caught it once by sheer luck, and now we are trapped in the torment of waiting, wondering if the keeper of the lighthouse is even still alive to tend the flame. There is a darker alternative to the lighthouse theory, one that fits well with the dark forest hypothesis. What if the "wow" signal wasn't a search beam, but a weapon or a communication between two alien fleets that we accidentally intercepted? In this scenario, the signal wasn't meant for us at all. We were just ants walking across a battlefield, and for a brief moment we felt the wind of a bullet passing overhead. The narrow frequency and high intensity could be the signature of a propulsion system, a light sail being pushed by a massive microwave beam, similar to concepts we are currently developing with the Breakthrough Starshot project. If a civilization was using a massive laser or maser to push a spacecraft to relativistic speeds and that beam accidentally swept across Earth, it would look exactly like the "wow" signal. This implies that the galaxy is teeming with traffic, massive engineering projects, and transit lanes that we are completely blind to. We are not the intended recipients of the message, we are just roadkill waiting to happen on a galactic superhighway. The psychological impact of the "wow" signal on the scientific community has been profound, creating a rift between hope and cynicism. For Jerry Edman and the early SETI pioneers, it was a moment of validation that turned into a lifetime of frustration. Imagine holding the proof of alien life in your hands, a sequence of numbers that shouldn't exist, but being unable to reproduce it. In science, reproducibility is everything. Without a second data point, the "wow" signal remains technically anecdotal, despite the hard data. It sits in a purgatory of truth, too significant to ignore, but too singular to confirm. This ambiguity is the breeding ground for obsession. Astronomers have spent their entire careers pointing telescopes at those empty coordinates in Sagittarius, praying for a whisper. It highlights the ultimate tragedy of the human condition in the cosmos. We are desperate for connection, but the universe offers us only silence and ambiguity. The signal is a mirror reflecting our own desperate need to not be alone. Modern technology has allowed us to revisit the "wow" signal data with fresh eyes, and new candidates for the source have emerged. In 2020, amateur astronomer Alberto Caballero analyzed the data from the Gaia Space Observatory, which has mapped over 1 billion stars in our galaxy. He looked for sun-like stars within the specific region of the "wow" signal's origin. Out of thousands of stars, he identified one particular candidate, 2MASS 1928198226400123. This star is roughly 1/800 light-years away and is almost an identical twin to our own Sun. It has the same temperature, the same radius, and the same luminosity. If there is a mirror image of our solar system out there, this star is the most likely place for it to be. The existence of a sun-like star exactly in the crosshairs of the "wow" signal is a chilling correlation. It provides a plausible address for the sender. If life evolved there, it would have done so under conditions very similar to Earth. They would see a yellow sun in their sky, just like we do. The symmetry makes the possibility of a connection feel less like a random accident and more like destiny. But if 2MASS 192819822640123 is the source, the timeline creates a vertigo-inducing realization about the speed of light. The signal we received in 1977 left that star around the year 177 AD. At that time on Earth, Marcus Aurelius was ruling Rome, and the Han dynasty was collapsing in China. If there is a civilization on a planet orbiting that star, they are not communicating with us in real time. We are looking at a postcard from their ancient history. If we were to send a reply today, "We heard you," it would not arrive there until the year 3823. A simple conversation, "Hello, hello back," would take 600 years to complete. This immense time lag crushes the dream of a dialogue. We are not chatting with neighbors. We are shouting across a canyon so wide that civilizations rise and fall in the time it takes for the echo to return. This isolation is absolute. Even if we found them, we could never truly know them. We are separated by the insurmountable wall of causality and time. The possibility of active SETI, or METI, messaging extraterrestrial intelligence, brings us to the ethical dilemma sparked by the WOW signal. Should we shout back? In 1974, we sent the Arecibo message, and in 2012, answering the WOW signal, humanity actually sent a response containing 10,000 Twitter messages and celebrity videos to the Sagittarius coordinates. While this seems like a harmless PR stunt, eminent scientists like Stephen Hawking warned against it. Hawking argued that if the WOW signal came from a technologically advanced civilization, announcing our presence might be as suicidal as the native inhabitants of the Americas waving flags at Columbus's ships. If the WOW signal was a ping from a predator mapping the terrain, a response confirmed that there is intelligent life here. Life that is noisy, chaotic, and technologically inferior. We might have just raised our hands in a dark room full of armed strangers. The silence that followed the WOW signal might have been a test, and by responding we may have failed it. Let us consider the transient signal phenomenon in modern astronomy, which has somewhat normalized the strange behavior of the WOW signal. In recent years, we have discovered fast radio bursts, FRBs, milliseconds-long blasts of energy from deep space that release as much energy in a fraction of a second as the sun does in a century. Most FRBs are one-offs, never repeating, just like WOW. However, the key difference lies in the spectral data. FRBs are incredibly broadband, spanning huge chunks of the radio spectrum, consistent with catastrophic natural events like magnetar flares or black hole mergers. They are explosions. The WOW signal was a tone. It remains unique because it combines the one-off nature of an FRB with the narrowband nature of a technosignature. It sits comfortably in neither category. It is too organized to be an explosion, but too fleeting to be a beacon. This uncanny valley of signal characteristics is what keeps it alive in the minds of researchers. It mimics biology. It mimics intent. It feels like a decision, not an accident. The architecture of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence is built on the assumption of redundancy. We assume that if aliens want to talk, they will repeat the message. We assume they are persistent. But why do we assume this? Human history is full of single, non-repeated events that changed the course of everything. A single command, a single declaration, a single signal. Perhaps the WOW signal was an automated burst from a probe that malfunctioned and only fired once. Perhaps it was a mayday call from a dying ship that exploded seconds later. Perhaps it was a scientific experiment by an alien civilization that went wrong and leaked energy for 72 seconds before being contained. By demanding repetition, we might be filtering out the truth. The universe is under no obligation to be repetitive for our scientific convenience. The one-off might be the standard mode of communication in a galaxy where energy is precious and silence is survival. We might be discarding the most important data points simply because they don't fit our rigid scientific method. There is a chilling hypothesis known as the Berserker probe scenario. This theory suggests that advanced civilizations send out self-replicating robot probes to scour the galaxy for emerging life forms, not to contact them, but to suppress them before they become a threat. These probes would sit silent in star systems, listening. When they detect radio waves, the sign of a developing technological species, they might send a ping to verify the source before initiating a sterilization protocol. The WOW signal could have been that ping, a verification scan. If this is true, the silence that followed isn't an absence of activity. It's the quiet calculation of a machine preparing a response. It sounds like science fiction, but from a game theory perspective, it is a logical strategy for survival in a finite universe. Eliminate the competition before they can build starships. The fact that we haven't been destroyed yet suggests either the theory is wrong, the probe malfunctioned, or the sterilization takes a form we don't recognize, perhaps a subtle manipulation of our climate or biology. Let us return to the specifics of the hydrogen line to understand why no other natural element can mimic this signal. Some skeptics have proposed that maybe a secret release of tritium or some other exotic isotope from a Cold War satellite could have caused the spike. But the frequency 1420.4056 MHz is chemically unique to neutral hydrogen. Tritium resonates at a different frequency. Hydroxyl resonates at a different frequency. To fake a hydrogen line signal, you need hydrogen. And to get a signal that strong, you need a cloud of hydrogen denser and hotter than anything that exists in Earth's orbit. The physics acts as a fingerprint. We know exactly what made the signal, hydrogen. The question is simply, what made the hydrogen scream? Was it a natural Maser amplification, a 1 in a trillion alignment of gas clouds that acted like a lens? Or was it excitement induced by an artificial power source? The natural Maser theory is the only remaining natural contender, suggesting that a background star's light was amplified by a foreground gas cloud. But even then, the narrow band nature is problematic. Masers are usually broader. The universe seems to be conspiring to eliminate every natural explanation, leaving us with only the impossible one. The wow signal also exposed the vulnerability of our listening methods. In 1977, we were listening to a tiny fraction of the sky at a tiny fraction of the available frequencies. Imagine trying to listen to a specific conversation in a crowded stadium, but you can only listen to one seed at a time for 72 seconds, and you can only hear high C. The odds of catching anything are infinitesimally small. The fact that we caught the wow signal almost immediately after the big year began its sky survey is statistically bizarre. If these signals are rare, we shouldn't have found one so quickly. This leads to the optimist's conclusion. If we found one so easily with primitive tech, the sky must be full of them. We just aren't listening on the right channels. It implies that the galaxy is not silent, it is a cacophony of chatter, and we are just deaf. We are like a tribe using smoke signals, unaware that the air around us is thick with radio waves, Wi-Fi, and cellular data. The wow signal was a moment where the veil dropped, and we glimpsed the true density of galactic information. As we move deeper into the 21st century, the legacy of the wow signal drives the Breakthrough Listen initiative, a $100 million project to hunt for technosignatures. They are using the Green Bank Telescope and the Parkes Observatory to scan millions of stars, including the center of the galaxy. They are not just looking for beacons now, they are looking for leakage, radar from alien airports, communication between alien planets, the waste heat of alien megastructures. The wow signal taught us that we can't just wait for a hello. We have to hunt for the artifacts of their existence. But every new survey that comes up empty increases the weight of the Fermi paradox. If the wow signal was real, why haven't we found another? Was it the last gasp of a dead world? Or was it a glitch in the simulation of reality itself? The data points to a universe that is teasing us, giving us just enough hope to keep looking, but not enough proof to stop wondering. There is a fascinating, albeit controversial, theory regarding the coding of the signal. Some mathematical linguists have looked at the intensity curve not as a bell curve, but as a binary carrier. If you analyze the subtle fluctuations within the 12-second samples, data we sadly do not have in high resolution, there might have been a fractal information density hidden inside the carrier wave. This is akin to sending a carrier pigeon that also has a microchip implanted under its skin. We saw the pigeon, the 1420 MHz carrier, but we missed the microchip, the modulation. This suggests that the wow signal wasn't just a "we are here" beacon. It could have been the Library of Alexandria beamed across the stars, compressed into 72 seconds of radio bursts. We might have recorded the Encyclopedia Galactica on a printout in Ohio and then threw it in the trash, because we only looked at the signal strength, not the signal content. It is a haunting thought. The answers to everything, immortality, faster than light travel, the meaning of existence, might have passed through a metal mesh in Ohio in 1977, and we missed it because our computers were too slow. The WOW signal forces us to confront the anthropic principle of SETI. We search for signals that resemble what we would send. We look for radio because we use radio. We look for hydrogen frequencies because we think hydrogen is important. But an advanced civilization a million years older than us might consider radio waves as primitive as smoke signals. They might communicate using neutrino beams, gravitational waves, or quantum entanglement, methods that are instantaneous and undetectable by radio telescopes. The WOW signal might have been a deliberate dumbing down of their communication, an attempt to speak baby talk to the primitive species in the Orion Arm. They used radio because they knew it was the only thing we could hear. It was a toy tossed into a crib, and when the baby didn't throw it back, they realized we weren't ready to play. We must also consider the possibility of interstellar scintillation. Just as stars twinkle because their light passes through Earth's turbulent atmosphere, radio waves from deep space pass through the turbulent plasma of the interstellar medium. This plasma can act like a lens, focusing and defocusing the signal. It is possible that the WOW signal was a constant, faint transmission from a distant civilization that is normally too weak for us to hear. But for 72 seconds, a cloud of plasma drifted into the perfect position to act as a magnifying glass, boosting the signal intensity by a factor of 1,000. If this is true, the alien civilization is still there, broadcasting right now, but we can't hear them because the lens has moved on. We are back to the faint background hum. This theory is compelling because it allows the signal to be real and artificial, while explaining why it never repeated at that strength. It means the galaxy is full of whispers, and we only hear them when the cosmic wind blows just right. The emotional toll on the scientists involved cannot be ignored. Jerry Amon, the man who circled WOW, has spent the rest of his life answering questions about those 72 seconds. He has been careful, skeptical, and scientific, refusing to claim it was definitely aliens. But in interviews, you can sense the burden of the unknown. To be the first human to potentially see a message from another world is a heavy mantle. It separates you from the rest of humanity. You have seen the footprint on the beach, but the tide washed it away before you could show anyone else. The WOW signal is not just a data point. It is a modern myth, a ghost story for the scientific age. It reminds us that despite all our logic and all our technology, we are still small creatures standing on the shore of a vast, dark ocean, terrified and thrilled by the possibility that something is swimming just beneath the surface. In recent years, a new hypothesis has emerged involving magnetars, neutron stars with magnetic fields 1 trillion times stronger than Earth's. These dead stars are known to emit soft gamma-ray repeaters and anomalous X-ray pulsars. In 2002, a new class of magnetar activity was discovered that can produce short, intense radio bursts. Could the WOW signal have been a megaflare from a previously unknown magnetar in Sagittarius? It fits the intensity. It fits the non-repeating nature. Giant flares are rare, but it fails the narrowband test. Magnetar outbursts are messy, broadband events. To make the magnetar theory work, you have to invent a new kind of physics where a magnetar can emit a laser-like radio beam. While possible, it is currently theoretical. Once again, to explain the WOW signal naturally, we have to invent new physics. To explain it artificially, we just have to assume we aren't alone. Occam's razor is becoming a dull blade in this investigation. The simple explanation of aliens is actually requiring fewer leaps of logic than the natural explanations requiring exotic, unobserved stellar phenomena. The cultural impact of the WOW signal reveals our desperate need for a savior or a teacher from the stars. We project our hopes onto the signal. We hope the message contains the cure for cancer, the secret to fusion energy, or the path to world peace. We want the aliens to be benevolent parents coming to save us from ourselves. But the science of the signal, cold, detached, powerful, offers no such comfort. If it was a signal, it was indifferent. It didn't care if we understood it. It was a broadcast, not a dialogue. This indifference is the true source of the cosmic horror. We are not special to them. We are just another coordinate in the database. The silence since 1977 suggests that they didn't find us interesting enough to call back. Being ignored is far more painful than being threatened. It implies we are insignificant in the grand scheme of galactic civilization. As we analyze the potential source stars again, let's look at the star CHI-1 Sagittarii. It is a spectral Type A star, much hotter and younger than our Sun, located about 220 light-years away. It was in the beam. While A-type stars are generally considered poor candidates for life because they live short, violent lives, we cannot rule out the possibility of a civilization migrating there or using it as a power station. Dyson spheres, massive structures built around stars to harvest energy, would alter the spectral signature of a star. We have looked at CHI-1 Sagittarii for infrared excess, the heat signature of a Dyson sphere, but found nothing conclusive. However, a partial Dyson swarm, a network of satellites collecting solar power, might be invisible to our instruments but capable of launching a beam like the WOW signal. We are looking for megastructures with telescopes designed to look for dust. We might be staring right at an alien power grid and interpreting it as natural interference. The WOW signal also serves as a calibration point for our own arrogance. We assume that if a civilization is advanced, they will be loud. We assume their radio leakage will fill the sky. But efficiency argues the opposite. As we on Earth move from analog TV to digital fiber optics, our radio leakage into space is actually decreasing. Earth is getting quieter, radio-wise. An advanced civilization might be totally silent, having moved all communication to efficient directed cables or laser links. The WOW signal might have been a relic of their noisy phase or a specific scientific instrument, but not a representation of their daily life. A silent sky doesn't mean an empty sky, it means an efficient sky. The fact that we heard anything at all suggests we caught a rare moment of inefficiency or a deliberate attempt to be retro for the sake of contact. The silence is not proof of absence, it is proof of technological maturity. Let's discuss the irreceivable reply and the concept of messaging to extraterrestrial intelligence, MET, in the context of the WOW signal coordinates. When we sent a reply in 2012, we aimed it at the coordinates of the 1977 detection. But because stars move, the source of the WOW signal, if it was a star, has drifted since then. We might have mailed our letter to an empty house. To truly reply, we need to calculate the proper motion of the candidate stars, where they are now versus where they were in 1977. This adds another layer of difficulty. We are shooting at moving targets in a 3D darkroom. If the source was a spaceship, it is long gone. If it was a star, it has shifted. The geometry of galactic communication is a nightmare of ballistics. You don't aim where they are, you aim where they will be when the message arrives 1,000 years from now. This requires a level of long-term planning that humanity has never demonstrated. We can barely plan for the next election cycle, let alone a conversation that spans millennia. There is a theory called the plasma sheet hypothesis. The heliosphere, the bubble of magnetic influence around our Sun, has a wavy sheet of current called the heliospheric current sheet. Some physicists have speculated that interaction between this sheet and the interstellar medium could create transient radio bursts. While this would explain the, quote, local nature and the lack of a repeat, it fails to explain the fixed celestial coordinates. The heliosphere moves with the Sun, the signal was fixed to the stars. Unless the plasma sheet formed a perfect, stable lens focusing a distant star for exactly 72 seconds, the physics doesn't hold up. Again, natural explanations require a, quote, perfect storm of coincidences. The alien explanation only requires one assumption, that we are not the first intelligent species to build a radio transmitter. In the court of probability, the alien hypothesis is becoming the conservative bet, while the natural hypothesis requires increasingly elaborate gymnastics to fit the data. We must also face the possibility that the signal was a deception, not by aliens, but by a human. A prank? In 1977, hacking the Big Ear computer was impossible remotely. There was no internet. Someone would have had to break into the facility, Program the IBM 1130 to print out 6EQUJ5 at the exact right time and ensure the intensity curve matched the telescope's beam pattern perfectly. This would require an intimate knowledge of the telescope's physics, access to the code, and a motive. Jerry Eman and the staff were serious scientists. A prank of this magnitude would end careers. Furthermore, the signal appeared in the raw data stream, not just the printout. To fake it, you would have to feed a fake voltage into the receiver itself. This would require building a transmitter, sneaking it into the field of view, and moving it to mimic the Earth's rotation. The logistical effort to fake the wow signal is harder than actually finding a real one. The hoax theory is the weakest of all. The wow signal stands as a monument to the unknown. It is the monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey, but made of data instead of stone. It sits there, undeniable and impenetrable. It proves that the universe is capable of surprising us. It breaks the monotony of the null result that plagues SETI. Even if it never repeats, it has already done its job. It has kept us looking. It forces us to keep our eyes open. It is a breadcrumb. Maybe it leads nowhere. Maybe it leads to a trap. Or maybe it leads to the realization that the galaxy is a crowded room, and we are just the last ones to wake up. The signal is a challenge. Figure this out. And until we do, we are merely apprentices in the workshop of reality, staring at a tool we don't know how to use. The sheer power of the signal, estimated at 2.2 gigawatts if omnidirectional, is terrifying. 2.2 gigawatts is the output of a large nuclear power plant, entirely converted into radio waves and dumped into space. If it was directed, the power requirement drops, but the technological sophistication rises. Either way, we are dealing with a civilization that has mastered energy. In the Kardashev scale, they are at least type 1, likely approaching type 2. We are type 0.7. We burn dead plants, fossil fuels, to run our computers. They likely harness stars. The difference in power is like a firefly trying to communicate with a searchlight. The wow signal reminds us of our place in the hierarchy. We are not the masters of the universe. We are the primitives in the mud, marveling at the lightning. Consider the super-civilization theory. If a civilization becomes truly advanced, they might engineer the stars themselves. There are stars with peculiar chemical compositions, Przybylski's star for example, that contain short-lived radioactive elements that shouldn't be there. Some scientists argue these are nuclear waste dumps for advanced civilizations. Does the wow signal originate from a region with these weird stars? The Sagittarius direction is thick with anomalies. Perhaps the signal wasn't a message, but the exhaust plume of a star engineering project. We might be hearing the sounds of cosmic construction work. We interpret it as communication, because we are narcissistic. To them, it might just be noise pollution from their heavy machinery. Let's focus on the hydrogen line encryption idea again. If you were to encode a message in the 1420 MHz band, you would likely use phase modulation. The big ear couldn't detect phase modulation. It was deaf to the nuances of the signal. It's like hearing someone speak a foreign language but only registering the volume of their voice. You know they shouted, but you don't know what they said. We may have the recording of the shout, the intensity, but the words, the phase data, are lost forever to the entropy of time. This is the ultimate tragedy of the wow signal. The message was there. It hit our planet, it passed through our instruments, and we failed to capture it. We were too primitive. It's a test we failed. And we don't know if there will be a makeup exam. The wow signal remains the strongest candidate for a true SETI hit because it passed all the filters that usually weed out false positives. It wasn't a satellite. It wasn't a planet. It wasn't a plane. It was a point source in the star field. It was narrowband. It wasn't the hydrogen line. It turned on and off with the telescope's beam. Any one of these traits is interesting. All of them together is a statistical smoking gun. In a court of law, this would be enough to convict. But in science, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And a single data point, no matter how perfect, is never enough. This strict adherence to the scientific method saves us from delusion, but it might also blind us to the truth. Sometimes, Things only happen once. The Big Bang only happened once. The origin of life on Earth only happened once. Why can't the signal be a singularity? What if the signal was an SOS? The 1420 MHz frequency is the universal water hole, the safe place. If a civilization was facing extinction, a supernova, a plague, a war, they might blast a high-power SOS on the most obvious frequency, hoping someone, anyone, would hear it. We are here, we are dying, remember us. The fact that it never repeated might mean the end came shortly after. The "wow" signal could be the final black box recording of a world that no longer exists. We didn't hear a greeting, we heard a death rattle. This interpretation shifts the tone from mystery to tragedy. We are the archaeologists of the galaxy, digging up the radio fossils of dead civilizations. Let's consider the glitch in the simulation hypothesis, which is gaining traction in philosophy if not physics. If our universe is a simulation, the signal represents a rendering error. A pixel that got too bright for 72 seconds. A variable that overflowed. It defies the physics of the simulation. No natural source should do that, because it came from outside the logic of the simulation. It's a breakdown of the code. While this is untestable, it captures the uncanny feeling of the event. It felt wrong. It stood out like a sore thumb against the background of reality. Whether it was aliens or a glitch in the matrix, the implication is that our reality is not what we think it is. We are living in a system that can be breached. As we approach the 50th anniversary of the signal, the search intensifies. We are now using AI to comb through old data. Artificial intelligence might find patterns that humans missed. Maybe the wow signal did repeat, but much weaker, buried in the noise. I can detect these sub-threshold signals. We are training our silicon children to listen for our cosmic parents. It is a poetic loop. We build intelligence to find intelligence. If an AI finds the hidden pattern in the wow signal, it will be the first time one non-human intelligence, AI, validates the existence of another non-human intelligence, alien, with humans merely acting as the bridge. The region of the sky where the signal originated is currently rising in the summer sky. Tonight, amateur astronomers and professional observatories alike will point their antennas at Sagittarius. They are looking for a flash, a repeat, a sign. It is a global vigil. We are keeping watch. This persistence is the defining trait of humanity. We are terrified of the dark, so we stare into it until we see a light. The wow signal ignited a fire in our species that hasn't gone out. It made us look up. It made us realize that the silence is just a lack of data. The sky is screaming. We just need to learn how to listen. There is a theory that the signal came from a spaceship that was moving at relativistic speeds towards us. The blue shift caused by their speed might have shifted their transmission into the 1420 MHz band from a lower frequency. If this is true, the lack of a repeat is explained by the fact that they have arrived, or they passed us by. If they were heading towards us in 1977 at near light speed, they would be here by now. The silence might mean they are already in the solar system, observing, hiding, silent. The call was the announcement of departure. The silence is the protocol of arrival. This turns the wow signal into a countdown that has already reached zero. We must also acknowledge the Gaia telescope data released recently, which identified a sun-like star at the coordinates. But Gaia also revealed that there are thousands of other stars in that column of space. The signal could have come from far behind that star, from a background galaxy. If it was extragalactic, the power levels become truly impossible, Type 3 civilization stuff, harnessing entire galaxies. If the signal came from outside the Milky Way, it means the gods are real, and they are playing with energies that could vaporize our entire local cluster. The scale of the mystery scales with the distance. The further away it was, the scarier the source becomes. The wow signal is the ultimate Rorschach test for humanity. Skeptics see a glitch, believers see a message, pessimists see a threat, optimists see a friend. The data itself is neutral. 6EQUJ5. It is just a string of characters, but what we project onto it tells us everything about our own species. We are lonely. We are paranoid. We are hopeful. We are terrified. The signal reflects our own face back at us from the mirror of the cosmos. Until we decode it, we are just talking to ourselves. But the conversation is changing. We are no longer asking, is there life? We are asking, why are they hiding? Imagine the moment the signal was sent. A technician on an alien world, looking at their own version of a screen, pressing a button that sends a pulse of energy into the void. Did they know it would hit Earth? Did they aim for our yellow sun? Or was it just a routine calibration test? System check. And that routine check traveled for 1,800 years, traversing the emptiness, dodging dust clouds and gravity wells, to land on a wire mesh in Ohio. The connection is tenuous, fragile, miraculous. Two intelligent beings, separated by time and space, linked for 72 seconds by a beam of photons. It is the most romantic and tragic event in human history. As we close the file on the initial investigation, we are left with the cold case of the millennium. The evidence is degrading. The Big Ear telescope was dismantled in 1998 to make way for a golf course. The physical connection to the signal is gone. We destroyed the only ear that ever heard the voice of the galaxy. It is a fitting metaphor for our priorities. We paved paradise to put up a parking lot, and we dismantled a Stargate to build a sand trap. We might have missed the second call because we were too busy playing games. The irony is palpable. But the story does not end in the past. It shifts to the future. New physics, new telescopes, and new theories are resurrecting the wow signal. We are beginning to understand that we might have fundamentally misunderstood what we were looking at. It wasn't just a radio signal. It might have been something else entirely, a side effect of a technology we haven't invented yet. The new theory suggests that the wow signal was not communication but propulsion. And if that is true, it means we are not looking for a pen pal. We are looking for the exhaust trails of starships. The investigation is about to take a darker turn. The light sail hypothesis transforms the wow signal from a message into a footprint. If an advanced civilization wanted to travel between stars without carrying massive amounts of fuel, they might use, quote, beamed propulsion. This involves building a massive laser or microwave transmitter on a home planet or moon and firing a concentrated beam at a spacecraft equipped with a reflective sail. The pressure of the photons hitting the sail pushes the ship to relativistic speeds, percentages of the speed of light. If the wow signal was the result of such a beam sweeping across Earth, the physics aligns terrifyingly well. The signal was narrowband, high efficiency, high intensity, massive power, and transient. The beam moved as the ship moved. We didn't hear a greeting. We were briefly blinded by the exhaust of an interstellar engine. This implies that the galaxy is crisscrossed with high-energy highways, and we are merely unsuspecting pedestrians walking across a freeway in the dark, unaware of the traffic until the headlights sweep over us. This shifts the entire paradigm of SETI, search for extraterrestrial intelligence, from communication to leakage. We have been assuming that aliens want to talk to us, that they are benevolent broadcasters sending welcome mats into the void. But why would they? Do we broadcast welcome to the anthills in the Amazon? No, we ignore them. The leakage theory suggests that the only signals we will ever detect are their waste products, the heat from their Dyson spheres, the radar from their defense grids, or the propulsion beams from their transport networks. The wow signal fits the profile of leakage perfectly. It wasn't modulated for our understanding. It was raw utility. This is a humbling and frightening realization. We are not the intended audience of the universe's radio plays. We are just eavesdropping on the industrial noise of giants. We are looking for their trash, not their art. To understand the scale of civilization required to produce the wow signal as leakage, we must look at the Tabby star, KIC 8,462,852 anomaly. Just as the wow signal was an inexplicable radio event, Tabby's star was an inexplicable optical event, where a star dimmed by 22%, a massive amount that cannot be explained by planets. The leading artificial explanation is a Dyson swarm, a megastructure in the process of being built to harvest the star's energy. If you connect the dots between WOW, radio, and Tabby star, optical, a picture emerges of Type 2 civilizations. These are societies that have outgrown their planets. They disassemble moons to build solar collectors. They use the energy of entire suns to power their microwave beams. The WOW signal required gigawatts of power. To us, that is a national power grid. To a Type 2 civilization, that is the energy contained in a battery. We are trying to comprehend their technology using our primitive measuring sticks. The energy requirements for the WOW signal act as a filter for the Kardashev scale. If the signal was omnidirectional, broadcast in all directions, the transmitter would need to consume the energy of a star. If it was directed, beamed, it would still require a transmitter larger than any city on Earth. This tells us that the sender is not at our level. We are a Type 0.7 civilization. We control the resources of a single planet, and barely. The sender of the WOW signal is likely a Type 1.5 or Type 2. They have mastered planetary engineering. This creates a technological horizon. Just as an indigenous tribe in the rainforest cannot comprehend the mechanism of the jet plane flying overhead, we may be physiologically incapable of understanding the physics behind the WOW signal. We see a radio wave. They might see a manipulation of space-time that merely looks like a radio wave to our primitive sensors. This immense gap in capability leads to the Great Filter theory. If civilizations as powerful as the WOW sender exist, civilizations that can blast gigawatt signals across 1/800 light-years, why don't we see them everywhere? Why is the sky not lit up with their traffic? The Great Filter suggests that there is a barrier to the development of life that is extremely difficult to overcome. Either it is very hard for life to start, meaning we are special, or it is very easy for civilizations to destroy themselves once they get technology, meaning we are doomed. The WOW signal might be the echo of a civilization that hit the filter. They reached the high-energy radio phase and then silence. Did they destroy their atmosphere? Did they create a black hole in a lab? Did they succumb to biological warfare? The silence following the WOW signal might be the silence of a graveyard. The brief window hypothesis adds a temporal dimension to our loneliness. Humanity has only been capable of receiving radio astronomy for about 80 years. In the 13.8 billion year history of the universe, 80 years is nothing. It is a flicker. For us to communicate with another civilization, our technology window must overlap with theirs. If the WOW signal sender flourished for 10,000 years and then died out, and they did so 50,000 years ago, we missed them. If they are rising now, but we destroy ourselves in the next century, we miss them. The odds of two civilizations being awake at the same time and looking at each other are infinitesimally small. The WOW signal might have been a moment where the windows aligned for 72 seconds, a cosmic coincidence where two lonely eyes made eye contact across the abyss before one blinked and was gone forever. There are other signals that have teased us, though none as dramatic as WOW. The signal SHGB02+14A, detected by the SETI at Home project in 2003, is the ghost to WOW's scream. Unlike WOW, which was a single massive burst, SHGB02+14A was a weak signal that appeared to persist. It was observed on 3 separate occasions, totaling about a minute of data. It came from a region between the constellations Pisces and Aries, but the frequency drifted in a way that was maddeningly inconsistent. It didn't match the rotation of a planet. It drifted too fast. It looked like a transmitter that was spinning wildly, or a signal that was being corrupted by the interstellar medium. Ultimately, it was dismissed as likely noise or a glitch, but it never had the definitive debunking that other signals had. It sits in the unsolved file, a whisper we couldn't quite hear, a shadow in the corner of the room that vanishes when you turn on the light. The psychology of the SETI at Home project, which discovered SHGB02+14A, represents a shift in how humanity searches for truth. Millions of people donated their idle computer power to process radio telescope data. It was a distributed global brain, a hive mind of humans looking for a hive mind of aliens. The fact that this massive global effort found only ambiguous ghosts like SHGB02+14A is telling. It proves that the aliens aren't making it easy. They aren't broadcasting on the BBC. If they are there, their signals are buried so deep in the noise that it takes a supercomputer made of 1 million laptops to even catch a hint of them. This reinforces the dark forest idea. Everyone is hiding. The signals we catch are mistakes. We are looking for the accidental cough in a silent library. In 2020, another heart-stopping moment occurred with BLC-1, Breakthrough Listen Candidate 1. The signal appeared to come from Proxima Centauri, the closest star system to Earth, just 4.2 light-years away. It was a narrow-band tone at 982 MHz. It drifted with the motion of the planet Proxima b. For a few weeks, the astronomical community held its breath. This was it. The neighbor was knocking. Proxima Centauri is a red dwarf, and Proxima b is a rocky world in the habitable zone. It was the perfect scenario. But then, the crush of reality. Further analysis revealed the signal was actually complex intermodulation distortion from human electronics on Earth, likely a cheap clock oscillator or a broken piece of hardware that just happened to mimic the motion of the star. It was a techno-signature, but it was ours. The disappointment was crushing, but it taught us a valuable lesson. We are our own worst enemy in this search. We are so noisy that we deafen ourselves. The false positive problem exemplified by BLC-1 creates a dangerous cry-wolf dynamic. If we detect another "wow" signal tomorrow, the immediate reaction will not be joy, but cynicism. It's probably just another microwave oven, we will say, referring to the infamous peritone signals which turned out to be a microwave oven door opening. This cynicism protects us from embarrassment, but it dampens the urgency of the search. We are becoming numb to anomalies. We explain them away because the alternative, that we are detecting alien life, is too big to process. We are biased toward the mundane, but the universe is not mundane. The universe is a place where black holes collide and rip the fabric of space. To assume that every radio signal is a broken microwave is an arrogance of its own. We must remain open to the impossible, for that is where the truth hides. Perhaps we are listening to the wrong medium entirely. Radio waves are slow, prone to interference, and energy inefficient for vast distances. An advanced civilization might use optical SETI lasers. A tightly focused laser beam can carry millions of times more data than a radio wave and can travel much further without degrading. If the "wow" signal had been a laser pulse instead of a radio pulse, we wouldn't have heard it with the big ear. We would have needed a massive optical telescope pointed at the exact right spot. We might be like a tribe beating drums, wondering why the neighboring village isn't beating drums back, while they are communicating via fiber optic cables running under our feet. We are looking for the technology we understand, not the technology that is optimal. The silence of the radio spectrum might just mean the galaxy has upgraded to fiber optics in space. This brings us to the enigma of Oumuamua, the first interstellar object detected passing through our solar system in 2017. While the "wow" signal was a data anomaly, Oumuamua was a physical anomaly. It was a cigar-shaped object tumbling through space that accelerated as it left the sun, but without the outgassing comet tail that usually causes such acceleration. Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb famously argued that the most logical explanation for its movement was radiation pressure, solar wind pushing on a thin, artificial surface. A light sail. If Oumuamua was a piece of space junk from an alien civilization, a defunct buoy, a broken probe, or a piece of wreckage, it connects directly to the logic of the "wow" signal. The "wow" signal was the beam. Oumuamua was the ship, or the sail. We might be seeing different parts of the same interstellar infrastructure. The propulsion flash in 1977 and the derelict vessel in 2017. The connection between Oumuamua and the "wow" signal is speculative but thematically consistent. Both represent the transient nature of contact. They appear, they defy our models, and they vanish before we can get a good look. Oumuamua was moving so fast that by the time we realized what it was already leaving the solar system. We couldn't send a probe to catch it. We couldn't take a close-up photo. We were left with a blurry dot and a set of impossible numbers. This reinforces the idea of space archaeology. The galaxy is not a bustling city. It is a ruin. We are picking through the debris of travelers who passed by long ago. We are finding the arrowheads and the pottery shards, the signals and the objects, but we never see the people who made them. Consider the von Neumann probe theory, also known as the self-replicating spacecraft. If a civilization wanted to explore the galaxy, they wouldn't go themselves. They would send robots. These robots would land on a moon, mine resources, build copies of themselves, and move on to the next star. Exponential growth means that within a few million years, a blink in cosmic time, the entire galaxy would be filled with these probes. This leads to the blueberry muffin problem. Where are they? If they exist, they should be everywhere. The wow signal might have been the, quote, ping of a von Neumann probe entering our sector, checking for life and reporting back. The fact that we haven't been eaten or colonized suggests that either the probes are benevolent watchers, or they are broken, or they have strict do not disturb protocols for primitive biological zoos like Earth. The zoo hypothesis is one of the most unsettling answers to the Fermi paradox. It suggests that the aliens are aware of us, but they are deliberately avoiding contact to allow us to evolve naturally, or to study us like bacteria in a petri dish. We are in a nature preserve. The silence is artificial. It is the silence of observers behind a one-way mirror. In this context, the wow signal was a slip-up. A tourist tapped the glass. A zookeeper dropped their keys. For 72 seconds, the containment failed, and we heard the noise from the control room. This implies that we are not alone, but we are imprisoned by our own ignorance, managed by a superior force that views us with curiosity rather than camaraderie. It strips us of our agency. We are not players in the game, we are the content. Taking the zoo hypothesis to its extreme leads to the planetarium hypothesis. This suggests that our understanding of the universe is a manufactured illusion. The signals we see, the stars we map, the radiation we detect, it is all a simulation or a projection designed to keep us content. If a Type 3 civilization wanted to isolate us, they could manipulate the information reaching our sensors. They could feed us a fake universe. Signal, in this nightmare scenario, was a glitch in the projector. A moment where the skybox of the video game flickered, revealing the code underneath. It explains why the signal was so mathematically perfect, 6EQUJ5, and why it never repeated. The system corrected the error. We are not looking at the universe. We are looking at a screensaver. Let us return to the hard physics of subspace or dark matter communication to escape the simulation nightmare. 85% of the matter in the universe is dark matter. We can't see it, touch it, or interact with it except through gravity. We are made of baryonic matter, the rare 15% minority. If an advanced civilization masters the physics of the majority of the universe, why would they communicate using the primitive minority matter, photon/radio? They might have a dark matter internet that permeates the galaxy, instant and high bandwidth. We are deaf to it because we are built of the wrong stuff. The signal might have been a leak, where a dark matter interaction briefly coupled with normal matter, creating a radio photon burst. We heard a static shock from their invisible network. We are trying to catch Wi-Fi signals using a butterfly net. Neutrinos offer another ghost-like communication channel. Neutrinos are subatomic particles that pass through matter almost as if it isn't there. Trillions of neutrinos from the sun are passing through your body right now. An advanced civilization could use modulated neutrino beams to communicate through planets, through stars, without obstruction. It is the ultimate secure line. We have massive neutrino detectors buried under ice in Antarctica, Ice Cube, and under mountains in Japan, Super Kamiokande. We look for natural bursts, but have we looked for wow signals in the neutrino data? If they are talking via neutrinos, they are shouting right through the core of the Earth, and we are only just beginning to build the ears to hear them. The radio signal might have been the secondary radiation from a massive neutrino event. The precursor theory is a staple of sci-fi that has merit in reality. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Intelligent life could have risen and fallen billions of years before Earth even cooled. These precursor civilizations would have left artifacts, automated beacons, monoliths. The WOW signal fits the description of an automated beacon that is nearing the end of its battery life. It acts like a lighthouse with a dying bulb, flashing erratically, maybe once every few centuries. We caught the last flash before the filament burned out. We are not discovering a civilization. We are stumbling upon their grave goods. The message 6EQUJ5 wasn't hello. It was memory full, or system failure. The concept of Schelling points in game theory helps us understand where to look. If two strangers have to meet in New York City but can't communicate, they usually guess Grand Central Station at noon. In the galaxy, the Schelling points are mathematical or physical constants. The hydrogen line, 1420 MHz, is the Grand Central Station of frequency. But what is the noon? When do we listen? The WOW signal arrived without an appointment. But maybe there are temporal Schelling points moments related to the periodicity of pulsars or the galactic rotation. The fact that the WOW signal hit 1420 MHz suggests the sender understands game theory. They went to the right station. We just don't know the schedule. We are sitting at the station 24/7, hoping they walk through the door again. There is a terrifying asymmetry in the search. We are looking for them, but they might not be looking for us. We assume curiosity is a universal trait of intelligence, but curiosity might be a survival trait specific to predators or gatherers on Earth. A superintelligent AI or a hive mind might have no desire to explore. They might be estivation civilizations, sleeping until the universe cools down to make computation more efficient. The estivation hypothesis suggests that advanced civilizations are hibernating, waiting for a colder era of the universe to maximize their processing power. The WOW signal might have been an alarm clock or a snore. We are the noisy children playing while the adults are trying to sleep. Let's reconsider the reflection hypothesis. Even though it was debunked, the idea was that a terrestrial signal bounced off a piece of space debris and came back to Earth. This would explain the frequency, human source, and the celestial motion reflected off a moving object. But the math of radar reflection dictates that the return signal would be incredibly weak. To get a WOW level intensity from a reflection, the debris would have to be a perfect mirror the size of a stadium. While unlikely, it introduces the fear of false echoes. Are we chasing our own shadows? Is the universe a hall of mirrors, where we mistake our own distorted reflection for a stranger? The psychological need to find the other might be making us see faces in the clouds. The chirp analysis is a modern forensic technique applied to the WOW data. A chirp is a signal where the frequency changes rapidly over time. This happens in radar and communication to pack more data into a pulse. The big ear was not designed to detect chirps. It integrated energy over 10 or 12 seconds. If the WOW signal was a rapid chirp, the big ear would just see a smear of energy, which is exactly what it saw. This suggests the signal was highly complex, compressed data. We didn't just miss the message, we missed the format. It's like trying to play a Blu-ray disc on a gramophone. You might hear a scratchy noise, but you won't see the movie. The technology gap is not just about power, it's about protocol. The geopolitical context of 1977 adds a layer of paranoia. The Cold War was freezing, satellites were watching everything. If the WOW signal had been a Soviet weapon or a US test, it would likely have been classified. But the frequency, 1420 MHz, is useless for military radar. Too much background noise from the galaxy, and banned by treaty. The fact that the military didn't react suggests they knew it wasn't a threat, or they were just as baffled as the astronomers. The silence of the spies validates the alien theory. If the NSA or the KGB had an explanation, it would have leaked by now, or at least appeared in declassified documents. The silence of the intelligence community aligns with the silence of the stars. Nobody knows what it was. The physical evidence, the computer printout, is now a holy relic of science. It resides in the archives of the Ohio History Connection. It is a piece of paper with circled numbers, 6EQUJ5. It is frail. It is analog. It is the only physical proof we have that on August 15, 1977, the universe touched us. We have built entire institutions, spent millions of dollars, and dedicated thousands of careers based on this one scrap of paper. It demonstrates the power of hope. We are willing to chase a ghost to the ends of the galaxy based on a single handwritten note in the margin. Wow! It is the most human reaction possible to the most inhuman event. Let's discuss the Drake equation again, but with the wow signal as a variable. N equals R, Fp, Ne, Fluorite, Phi, FCl. The equation calculates the number of active, communicative extraterrestrial civilizations in the Milky Way. Most variables are guesses, but Fc, fraction that reveals their existence, is the bottleneck. The wow signal suggests that Fc is non-zero. Even if it was just one signal, it proves the capacity exists. But L, length of time they send signals, is the killer. If the wow signal was 72 seconds long and they never repeated it, then L is incredibly short. If L is short, then N, the number of civilizations, drops to near zero. We are likely alone not because they never existed, but because nobody stays on the line long enough to be heard. This leads to the sustainability solution to the Fermi paradox. Civilizations that survive for millions of years, high L, must be efficient. They don't waste energy blasting radio waves into space. They are quiet. Civilizations that are loud, like us and the wow sender, are inefficient and likely short-lived. They burn out their resources or destroy themselves. Therefore, the galaxy is populated by two types of civilizations, the loud and dying, and the quiet and eternal. The blow signal was the death cry of a loud civilization. We are a loud civilization. We are listening to our own future ghost. The hydrogen cloud theory revisited. In 2017, the Center for Planetary Science suggested the signal was caused by cometary hydrogen clouds. We debunked this, but let's look at the stimulated emission aspect. Could a natural gas cloud act as a laser without intelligent design? In 2021, astronomers found megamasers galaxies that emit massive microwave lasers naturally. But these are on a galactic scale, not a point source like WOW. To get a point source natural laser that turns on and off in 72 seconds is physically baffling. Nature usually changes slowly. Explosions are fast, but messy. Lasers are organized. A natural laser that is fast and organized is a contradiction in terms. It's like finding a naturally occurring clock mechanism in a rock. It's possible, theoretically, but it implies a universe far stranger than we know. The interstellar internet hypothesis suggests that the WOW signal was a packet of data in a routed network. In a mesh network, nodes pass data to other nodes. Maybe the Earth is not a node. Maybe the signal was meant for a node behind us. We just stood in the line of sight. We intercepted a packet. This explains the non-repetition. The network routed the next packet through a different path to avoid the obstruction, Earth. We are the interference in their Wi-Fi. We are the static. The idea that we are the obstacle rather than the destination is a blow to our ego, but a boost to the probability of life. The dark energy connection. As the universe expands, galaxies move away from us. The observable universe is shrinking in terms of reachability. Eventually, every other galaxy will disappear beyond the cosmic horizon, and we will be truly alone. The WOW signal came from inside our galaxy, so this doesn't apply directly, but the existential dread is the same. We are in a race against time to find friends before the universe pulls us apart. Every signal we miss is a tragedy, because the universe is getting darker every second. The era of contact might be closing. What if the signal encoded a meme or a virus? Not a biological virus, but an informational one. In sci-fi, this is a trope, but in information theory, it is valid. A signal that contains instructions to build a machine, like in Contact, or code that overwrites our software. Since we couldn't decode it, we were saved, or denied. But if we had decoded it, what would it have done to us? Ideas are dangerous. A civilization a billion years ahead of us could send a concept that collapses our society just by being understood. The truth might be incompatible with the human mind. The silence might be a safety feature. The WOW signal's frequency, 1420.4556 MHz, is arguably the most precise measurement we have. But there is a Doppler shift to consider. The Earth moves, the Sun moves, the source star moves. The fact that the signal arrived at 1420 MHz relative to the receiver suggests the sender corrected for the motion of our Sun. They canceled out the Doppler shift. This is the targeting evidence. If they just blasted a signal, it would be shifted. To hit 1420 exactly on our end, they had to know our velocity. They did the math for us. This implies they were looking at Sol. They knew where we were going. The panspermia connection. Directed panspermia suggests life was sent to Earth on purpose. If we are a seeded colony, maybe the WOW signal was a check-in, a remote activation signal. Is the colony active? We didn't answer because we didn't know how. So the probe moved on. We might be a failed experiment that has been written off by the creators. No response from Sector 6 EQUJ5. Terminate project. The silence is the sound of the funding being cut. The search strategy moving forward requires us to be omnipresent. The big ear listened to one spot. The new Panseti experiments listen to the entire sky all the time. We are building owl eyes that can see in all directions. If another WOW signal hits tonight, we will catch it. We will triangulate it. We will record the modulation. We are ready now. The tragedy is that the phone rang when we were in the shower, and now we are sitting by the phone, wrapped in a towel, waiting for it to ring again. It has been 47 years. The silence is deafening. The possibility of gravitational lensing as a communication tool. The sun's gravity can act as a massive telescope lens, magnifying signals from the other side of the galaxy. If we send a probe to the solar gravitational lens focal point, 550 AU away, we could see the surface of exoplanets. The WOW signal sender might have been using their own star as a lens to blast the signal at us. This explains the high power. They cheated the inverse square law by using gravity. It shows a mastery of stellar physics. We are just now planning our first mission to the focal point. We are 500 years behind them. The WOW signal is a memento mori. It reminds us that civilizations are transient. The signal lasted 72 seconds. Our civilization has lasted 10,000 years. The stars last billions. We are a flash in the pan. The signal is a symbol of the fleeting nature of intelligence. It flared and died. We will flare and die. The universe will continue, cold and indifferent. This nihilism is the backdrop of the investigation. We are searching for meaning in a void that offers none. But we search anyway, because we are human. Let's analyze the 266 P. Christensen comet theory one last time to drive the stake through its heart. The frequency was wrong. The position was wrong. But the appeal of the theory was right. We wanted it to be a comet. Because if it's a comet, we are safe. If it's a comet, we don't have to worry about the dark forest. If it's a comet, we are alone. And being alone is safer than being hunted. The rejection of the comet theory forces us back into the danger zone. The safety blanket is gone. There is something out there. The WOW signal and the Oumuamua object are the two bookends of modern anomaly research. One was a wave, one was a particle. Both came from the dark, touched our system, and left. They serve as the notification icons on the dashboard of humanity. We have pending messages. We just don't have the password to open them. The frustration of the scientific community is palpable. We are the smartest apes on the planet, but we are still just apes staring at a monolith. The sheer distance, 1/800 light-years, means that any threat is mitigated by time. If they launched an invasion fleet when they sent the signal, the fleet would still be 1/700 years away, assuming sublight speed. We have time, but technology advances exponentially. If they have FTL faster than light travel, which violates our physics but might not violate theirs, they could be here tomorrow. The WOW signal is the ultimate unknown variable in our national security. We are planning defenses against nukes and biological terror, but we have no plan for a civilization that can manipulate 2.2 gigawatts of radio power like a toy. The WOW signal serves as the genesis point for the technosignature field. Before WOW, we looked for biology, oxygen, methane. After WOW, we started looking for technology, radio, lasers, heat. It changed the definition of life from biological slime to technological intent. It raised the bar. We don't just want to find moss on a rock. We want to find the engineers who built the radio. The investigation continues. The Breakthrough Listen project is releasing petabytes of data to the public. You, the viewer, can download the data. You can hunt for the next WOW signal on your laptop. The search has been democratized. The next discovery won't come from a government bunker. It will come from a kid in a basement running a Python script. The WOW signal belongs to all of us now. It is our collective mystery. As we stare at the visual representation of the signal, that sharp spike in the graph, we are staring at the heartbeat of the cosmos. A flat line means death. A spike means life. For 72 seconds, the universe had a pulse. It proved that the galaxy is alive. That single fact is worth all the fear, all the silence, and all the waiting. We are not in a dead room. We are in a sleeping room. And someone just turned over in their sleep. The WOW signal challenges our definition of proof. In court, you need a witness. In science, you need a repeat. In history, you need an artifact. WOW is none of these, yet it is all of them. It is a witness to an event. It is a non-repeating fact. It is a digital artifact. It occupies a space between belief and knowledge. It is the gray zone of science, and that is why it is so viral. It allows us to dream without breaking the laws of physics. The coordinates: right ascension 19h 25m31s, declination minus 26 degrees 57. Tattoo these numbers on the collective consciousness of humanity. This is the address of the anomaly. Whether it is a house, a grave, or a trap, it is the only address we have. We should not stop ringing the doorbell until someone answers or the house falls down. In the end, the WOW signal asks a question: are you listening? If we stop listening, we admit defeat. We admit that the universe is too big and we are too small. But if we keep listening, even for 1,000 years of silence, we prove that we are worthy of the answer. The search itself is the victory. It elevates us from mud to stardust. But let's not be naive. The universe is violent. Gamma ray bursts, supernovas, black holes. It is not a garden, it is a gladiatorial arena. The WOW signal might have been the roar of a champion. By entering the arena with our own radio signals, we have declared ourselves combatants. We just hope we aren't fighting a heavyweight when we are still learning to stand up. The Fermi paradox is the silence. The WOW signal is the break in the silence. They are the yin and yang of cosmic horror. One is the terror of isolation. The other is the terror of intrusion. We are trapped between the fear of being alone and the fear of being found. We don't know which one is worse. As we move into the final phase of our analysis, we must consider the future of the signal. Will we ever decode it? Maybe AI in the year 2050 will find the hidden modulation. Maybe the message is sitting on a hard drive in Ohio, waiting for the right key. The story isn't over. It's just paused. The WOW signal is the ghost in the machine of astronomy. It haunts every new discovery. Every time we find a new exoplanet, we ask, is this where it came from? It drives the field forward through the sheer power of curiosity and unease. It is the grit in the oyster that makes the pearl. We are now going to explore the most radical theories. Theories that move beyond aliens and into the realm of the fabric of reality itself. What if the signal wasn't from a who, but a what? A tear in space-time? A collision of dimensions? The science gets stranger from here. We must venture into the realm of brain cosmology to find an explanation that fits the impossible energy profile of the WOW signal. String theory suggests that our universe is just one brain, membrane, floating in a higher dimensional bulk, potentially alongside other parallel universes. If two brains were to drift close enough to touch, or if a massive release of energy in a parallel brain leaked across the gap via gravity or exotic radiation, It might manifest in our universe as a sudden, inexplicable point source of energy. The wow signal could be the radio signature of a cataclysm happening in a dimension adjacent to ours, a ghost touch from a parallel reality. This would explain why there was no physical object, star or planet, at the coordinates that matched the intensity. The source wasn't in Sagittarius. It was behind Sagittarius, in a different layer of reality entirely. We heard the thud of a neighbor falling down in the apartment upstairs, but we are trapped in the basement, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the noise was. It implies that the cosmos is not just a void, but a crowded building where the walls are thinner than we think. Consider the hypothesis of cosmic strings. These are hypothetical one-dimensional topological defects, which may have formed during a symmetry-breaking phase transition in the early universe. Think of them as cracks in the ice of spacetime that froze into place moments after the Big Bang. They are incredibly thin, thinner than a proton, but immensely dense. A kilometer of cosmic string would weigh as much as the Earth. If a loop of cosmic string were to snap, oscillate, or interact with a magnetic field, it could produce a burst of electromagnetic radiation, including radio waves. This event would be transient, powerful, and highly localized, exactly like the wow signal. If this is the cause, we didn't hear aliens. We heard the structural groaning of the universe itself. We heard a snapping tendon in the body of God. This removes the intent from the signal, but replaces it with the terrifying notion that the fabric of space is filled with invisible, high-tension wires that can lash out and release planet-shattering energy at any moment without warning. The tachyon hypothesis pushes the boundaries of special relativity. Tachyons are theoretical particles that always move faster than light. Because they travel faster than light, they move backward in time according to our frame of reference. If an advanced civilization possesses tachyon transmitters, they could send messages into their own past. The signal might be a message sent from the future, our future or theirs. If it was sent from the year 3000 to the year 1977, it creates a causal loop. Why 1977? Maybe that was the moment we had the technology to hear it, the big ear, but not the technology to decode it, preventing a paradox. A message from the future that is undecipherable is safe. It doesn't change history. But it sits there, a time capsule that we opened too early. If the signal was a warning from our future selves, the silence that followed is the most harrowing part. It implies that the warning failed, or that there was nothing more to say. We are staring at a letter from a ghost that hasn't been born yet. Let us return to the superradiance phenomenon. In quantum mechanics, superradiance occurs when a group of emitters, like atoms, coordinate to emit a light pulse with intensity proportional to the square of the number of atoms. It is a collective shout. Some astrophysicists speculate that alien civilizations might use megastructure superradiance to communicate. By synchronizing the emission of billions of satellites or atoms in a gas cloud, they could create a signal of unbelievable power, like the wow signal that stands out against the galactic background. This requires a level of social and technological coordination that mimics a hive mind. It isn't a single operator pressing a button, it is the collective will of a species acting as a single quantum entity. The wow signal might be the result of a civilization that has transcended individuality, where the entire population acted in unison to say one word. We are terrified of this concept because we value our individuality, but in the cold calculus of cosmic survival, the hive might be the only structure that endures. The concept of stellar lifting introduces an industrial explanation for the signal. Advanced civilizations will eventually run out of resources on their planets. To survive, they must mine their own stars. Stellar lifting is the process of removing mass, hydrogen and helium from a star to extend its lifespan or to use as fuel. This involves using massive electromagnetic fields to siphon plasma off the stellar surface. Such a process would be messy. It would create massive transient radio arcs and jets of plasma leakage. The wow signal might have been the startup sequence of a stellar mining rig. We detected the ignition spark of a machine designed to dismantle a sun. This recontextualizes the alien from a philosopher-poet sending greetings to a cosmic strip miner tearing apart the galaxy for resources. We are not looking for friends. We're looking for the exhaust of the demolition crew that might one day come for our sun. The dark matter interaction theory suggests that dark matter is not just dead weight, but potentially active. If dark matter can annihilate or decay into standard model particles, like photons, it could produce radio signals. If a dense clump of dark matter, a dark star, passed through the Sagittarius region and interacted with a gas cloud, the resulting annihilation could produce a monochromatic radio spike. This would be a completely natural, yet invisible, event. We would see the radio flash but no object. This fits the WOW data perfectly. There was no star at the exact center of the beam. Maybe the source was a clump of invisible matter, a ghost asteroid made of shadow, that triggered a flare as it passed through a hydrogen cloud. This means the universe is populated by invisible monsters that we can only see when they crash into the furniture. We are blindfolded in a room full of moving objects, detecting them only by the sound of the wind they create. We must discuss the WOW signal in the context of vacuum decay. The universe exists in a vacuum state, but it might be a false vacuum, a local minimum of energy, not the true minimum. If a bubble of true vacuum were to form anywhere in the universe, it would expand at the speed of light, rewriting the laws of physics and destroying everything in its path. Some theoretical models suggest that the nucleation of such a bubble would be preceded by a burst of high-energy radiation, potentially downshifted into the radio spectrum as a precursor wave. Could the WOW signal have been the death scream of a distant region of space collapsing into true vacuum? If so, the bubble is expanding towards us at the speed of light right now. We wouldn't see it coming because it moves as fast as the light we use to see. We would just cease to exist. The signal was the thunder. The lightning strike is the end of existence. The information panspermia theory posits that DNA itself is a signal. But what if the WOW signal was a digital update for biological life? Some fringe scientists have looked for correlations between the 1977 signal and spontaneous genetic mutations or viral outbreaks on Earth. While there is no credible evidence for this, the concept is terrifying. It turns the Earth into a remote-controlled device. If the signal contained data that influenced the biosphere, perhaps triggering the activation of junk DNA, we wouldn't know until the changes manifested generations later. We might be the biological printers, and the WOW signal was the file sent to the queue. We are printing a design we didn't create. This erodes the concept of human sovereignty. Are we the masters of our evolution, or are we simply antennas made of meat, reacting to programming sent from Sagittarius? The interstellar war hypothesis is the most cinematic and kinetic explanation. In space warfare, you wouldn't use explosives, you would use directed energy weapons, DEW, lasers, masers, and particle beams. If a battle was raging in the Sagittarius Sector 1 800 years ago, the WOW signal might have been a miss. A weapon was fired at an enemy ship, missed its target, and the beam continued on for centuries until it swept across the Earth. The intensity, the narrow focus, the transient nature, it all looks like a weapon discharge. We were the bystander who got flashed by the muzzle flare of a sniper rifle fired in a war we didn't know was happening. The silence since then might mean the war is over. One side won. And if the side that won is the one that shoots gigawatt beams at its enemies, we should be very afraid of drawing their attention. The quiet of the galaxy might be the peace of a graveyard after the conquest. The galactic GPS theory. Pulsars are natural lighthouses, but they are imperfect. An advanced civilization might build a network of artificial pulsars, precise narrowband beacons, to navigate the galaxy. These beacons would rotate, sweeping beams across the star field to allow ships to triangulate their position. The WOW signal looks exactly like what a navigational beacon would look like if you flew through the beam. It was steady, precise, and artificial. If this is true, the Earth is not a destination. It is just a coordinate on a map used by cargo ships. We are sitting on a mile marker on the galactic highway. The signal wasn't for us. It was for the automated guidance system of a freighter passing in the night. This highlights our insignificance. We are analyzing the road signs, thinking they are poems written for us, when they are just traffic control. The observer effect in quantum mechanics states that the act of observation changes the outcome. This leads to a metaphysical paranoia about the WOW signal. Did the signal stop because we heard it? In quantum encryption, if a third party, Earth, intercepts the key, the wave function collapses, or the sender knows the line is tapped and terminates the connection. If the wow signal was a quantum encrypted channel between two alien intelligences, our big ear, acting as the eavesdropper, might have triggered a security protocol that shut down the transmission. We didn't just miss the message, we broke the connection. We are the clumsy spies of the cosmos, tripping over the wires. This theory implies that the aliens know we are listening now. The act of detection was a two-way street. By hearing them, we revealed ourselves. The black monolith scenario from Clarke's fiction is actually a viable scientific hypothesis, known as the Sentinel hypothesis. A probe is placed in a solar system to wait for a specific trigger: nuclear fission, spaceflight, or high-power radio. Once the trigger is detected, the Sentinel fires a signal back to the home world. They are ready, or they are dangerous. The wow signal came shortly after humanity began broadcasting TV and radar at high power. It might have been the Sentinel in our own backyard or a nearby star, calling home to report our emergence. This means the clock started ticking in 1977. The report has been filed. The fleet has been notified. The silence is the travel time of the response force. We are currently in the grace period between the report and the audit. Let's analyze the frequency drift again. The lack of drift in the wow signal is its most damning feature against natural causes. Everything in space spins and moves. For a signal to hold steady at 1,420 MHz, the sender must de-chirp the signal to compensate for the relative motion of the source and the receiver. This is technically difficult. It requires knowing the exact orbit of the Earth around the Sun and the Sun around the galaxy. The fact that the wow signal was so stable suggests the sender had locked onto our system. They weren't just blasting into the void, they were leading the target. It's the difference between a shotgun blast and a sniper, adjusting for windage and elevation. Someone had Earth in their crosshairs, electronically speaking. That level of attention is not comforting. It is predatory. The Galactic Club hypothesis. What if the signal was an invitation, a joining key? The signal contained the code to decrypt the rest of the galactic internet. But because we only captured the intensity and not the phase modulation, we missed the key. It's like being handed a Wi-Fi password but not having a device to type it in. The invitation was extended, and we stared at it blankly. The club assumes that any civilization smart enough to join will be smart enough to build a receiver that captures phase data. We failed the entrance exam. The silence is not a punishment. It is just the result of our incompetence. They are waiting for us to get smarter. The signal might be repeating every day, but encrypted in a way we can't see yet. We are looking for smoke signals while they are sending emails. The cosmic background is the noise floor of the universe. The wow signal punched through this floor. But what lies beneath the floor? We assume the static is random thermal noise. But information theory suggests that noise is just data we don't understand. An encrypted message looks exactly like random noise to an observer who doesn't have the key. The entire radio sky, the hiss of the Big Bang, the crackle of Jupiter, might be a dense layer of communication that we are dismissing as static. The wow signal was the only unencrypted moment, the only time they spoke in the clear. We are walking through a crowded room thinking it's empty because everyone is speaking a language that sounds like wind to us. The universe isn't silent, it's encrypted. The Great Attractor is a gravitational anomaly, pulling our galaxy and thousands of others towards a point in space that is obscured by the zone of avoidance. We can't see what's pulling us. The wow signal came from Sagittarius, which is roughly in the direction of the galactic center, but the Great Attractor is in Centaurus. However, the large-scale flow of the universe is interconnected. Could the signal be related to these massive cosmic flows? A civilization riding the gravity currents? Or a beacon warning us about the destination? We are all on a raft, drifting towards a waterfall we can't see, the Great Attractor, and the wow signal might have been a flare from someone further down the river. Turn back. But we can't turn back. Gravity only goes one way. The technological singularity implies that once a civilization builds a super-intelligent AI, change becomes instantaneous and unpredictable. They might upload their consciousness into a digital substrate and leave the physical universe behind. This is the digital ascension theory. They stop broadcasting radio because they stop living in space. They live in a simulation running on a Dyson sphere. The wow signal might have been the final goodbye of a civilization before they uploaded themselves and turned off the lights in the physical world. We are looking for biological neighbors, but the neighborhood is empty because everyone has moved into the cloud. The silence is the hum of their servers, which we mistake for background radiation. The anthill analogy is often used, but let's refine it to the roadside picnic scenario. Aliens visit a location, Sagittarius, have a picnic, leave some trash, the signal, and leave. The ants find the trash and worship it, study it, build religions around it. The signal has no meaning to the ants. It is just a byproduct of a higher existence. The 6EQUJ5 intensity curve is just the shape of the wrapper they dropped. This perspective strips the signal of any profundity. It wasn't a message. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a beacon. It was litter. And we have spent 50 years analyzing a gum wrapper dropped by a god. It highlights the vast chasm between our desperate search for meaning and the likely indifference of the cosmos. The Solar Gravitational Lens Project, or FOCAL, is humanity's future attempt to do what the aliens might have done. By sending a telescope 550 astronomical units away from the Sun, we can use the Sun's gravity to magnify the light of distant planets by a factor of 100 billion. We could see the continents on an exoplanet. If the WOW Center used this technique, they could see the Great Wall of China. They could see our city lights. This eliminates the "we are invisible" defense. If they have gravity lens telescopes, there is no hiding. They know we are here. The WOW signal proves they can reach us. The combination of "they see us" and "they can touch us" is the recipe for existential anxiety. The dark forest isn't dark to them. They have night vision goggles. The statistical miracle of the Big Ear. The telescope had 2 feed horns. The signal entered one but not the other. This implies the signal turned off in the split second between the 2 horns scanning the same spot. The timing is so precise it feels engineered. If it was a continuous signal, both horns would have seen it. If it was a natural burst, the odds of it shutting off exactly in that 3-minute window are tiny. This on-off behavior suggests a digital switch. Someone flipped a breaker. Nature doesn't flip breakers, it fades out. A light bulb turning off is artificial. A fire dying down is natural. The WOW signal behaved like a light bulb. This artificiality of termination is just as important as the artificiality of origin. The cultural filter. We interpret the WOW signal through the lens of 20th century technology. We see radio. A 19th century scientist would have interpreted it as a magnetic anomaly. A 21st century scientist might interpret it as data leakage. We are limited by our metaphors. The signal might be something we don't have a word for yet. It might be entanglement modulation or vacuum engineering. We are trying to describe a color we have never seen. The WOW might not even be a signal. It might be a sculpture in the electromagnetic field, a piece of art that we are trying to read as a telegram. We are analyzing the brushstrokes of a painting, hoping to find a mathematical equation. The search for 2 is the current holy grail. The breakdown of the scientific method without replication is painful. We have built the Pan-SETI instrument to watch the whole sky all the time. But what if the signal repeats on a timescale longer than human civilization? If it repeats every 10,000 years, we will never see it again. We are ephemeral. Our science is a flash in the pan. The aliens operate on geologic time. They speak in eras. We listen in seconds. This temporal mismatch is the ultimate barrier. We are mayflies trying to communicate with a mountain. The mountain speaks once a millennium, and the mayfly dies waiting for the second syllable. The decoy hypothesis. What if the signal was meant to draw our attention to Sagittarius while something else happened in the opposite direction? A magician's trick. Look at the bright flash while the ship enters the atmosphere behind your back. This is paranoia, yes, but in a strategic analysis of potential invasion scenarios, a distraction flare is a standard tactic. While we were all staring at the printout from 1977, what did we miss in the North Sky? What data was ignored because 6EQUJ5 was stealing the spotlight? The signal might have been the distraction, not the main event. It successfully occupied our best minds for 50 years, a perfect strategic diversion. The self-destruct nature of high-tech civilizations. We assume advanced civilizations are stable, but technology brings instability. The ability to send a signal implies the ability to build a weapon of mass destruction. Maybe the silence in the galaxy is because high-energy civilizations inevitably blow themselves up shortly after they discover radio. The wow signal is the sound of a civilization reaching the critical instability point. It is the scream of the baby taking its first breath, which is often followed by choking. The great filter might be right in front of us, and the wow signal is the last thing a species does before it hits the wall. The retrocausality experiments. Some physicists argue that the future can influence the past. If we eventually build a time machine or a causality-violating transmitter, the first thing we would do is test it. We would send a signal back to a time when we were listening. 1977 was the year we were listening hardest. The wow signal could be us, calling from the year 3000, testing the line. Can you hear me now? The reason it fits the hydrogen line and the antenna profile so perfectly is because we designed it to. We sent it to ourselves. It is a loop. We are the aliens. The silence is simply because we haven't built the transmitter yet. We are waiting for ourselves to catch up. The wow signal creates a feeling of cosmic vertigo. It makes us feel the spin of the Earth. We were swept through a beam. It connects the rotation of our planet to the location of a star. Usually, we feel stationary. The signal made us feel the motion. We are on a carousel, and for 1 second we saw a face in the crowd. Now we are spinning, trying to find that face again, but everything is a blur. The vertigo comes from realizing that the carousel never stops, and the crowd is full of strangers who aren't looking at us. We are just spinning in the dark. The planetary radar explanation revisited. Arecibo used to blast radar at planets to map them. If an alien civilization was mapping our solar system with radar, the signal was the ping bouncing off Jupiter or Earth. But radar is usually broadband. To be narrowband, it would have to be a specific type of Doppler radar. This implies they were measuring our speed, not just our shape. Why would they need to know the velocity of Earth? To calculate an intercept course? To fire a projectile? The targeting solution hypothesis turns the signal from a map into a crosshair. They were ranging us. And once they got the range, they turned off the radar. The firing solution is locked. The data rot problem. The original computer tapes of the wow signal are largely lost or degraded. We rely on the paper printout. This is a crisis of archiving. If we find the signal again, will we even recognize it? We are losing our own history. The signal is becoming a myth because the primary data is fading. In 500 years, the wow signal will be regarded like the Star of Bethlehem, a legend, possibly real, possibly exaggerated, but scientifically unverified. We are watching science turn into folklore in real time. The wow is becoming a once upon a time. The exotic matter propulsion drive. Alcubierre warp drives require negative mass or exotic energy. The signature of a warp drive activating or breaking might be a burst of radiation. If a ship dropped out of warp near Earth in 1977, the sonic boom of the warp bubble collapsing could look like a radio spike. The signal might be the sound of brakes screeching. A visitor stopped, looked around, saw the disco era, and decided to warp away immediately. It puts the UFO phenomenon into a physics context. The sightings and the signals might be linked phenomena of arrival and departure. The biological hazard of contact. Stephen Hawking warned that contact between civilizations usually ends badly for the one with less technology. The wow signal is the Columbus arriving in the Americas moment. We are the indigenous people on the beach. We see the sails, the signal, and we are curious. But we don't know what comes off those ships. Smallpox, slavery, conquest. The signal is the first sign of an approaching fleet. Our curiosity might be our undoing. We are waving flags at the horizon, inviting the conquistadors to land. The silence of the universe might be the camouflage of the wise, and our radio broadcasts are the foolish noise of the prey. The galactic zookeeper check-in. If we are in a zoo, the systems need maintenance, the sensors need calibration, the force fields need energy. The wow signal might have been a telemetry burst from the automated system managing the solar system preserve. It wasn't meant for the animals, us. It was machine-to-machine talk. Fence integrity at 98%. Subject population stable. We intercepted the zookeeper's log. This makes us feel small, but it also implies we are protected. Someone is maintaining the fence. But it also means we can never leave. We are trapped in the preserve for our own safety, or for their amusement. The dark forest strike theory. In the dark forest, if you see a signal, you shoot a photoid, a mass moving at near light speed, to destroy the source star. It's the only safe move. Did the WOW signal mark a target? Was it a tracer round? If so, the bullet is on its way. It might take 1,000 years to get here. But once it arrives, the sun explodes. The signal was the laser pointer painting the target for the missile. The fact that we are still here proves either the theory is wrong, the missile is slow, or we weren't the target. We were just in the way of the laser pointer. The rare Earth hypothesis argues that life is incredibly rare. If we are the only ones, the WOW signal must be natural. It forces us to accept that the universe can do things we don't understand. It forces us to invent new physics to explain the 1420 MHz spike. Maybe hydrogen can laze under conditions we haven't discovered. Maybe black holes can sing. If we are alone, the signal is a mystery of matter, not mind. It is a puzzle box with no prize inside, just more complex geometry. This is the lonely timeline. It is sadder, but safer. No predators, just an empty, beautiful, confusing house. The WOW signal acts as a mirror for our technology. In 1977, we looked for radio. Today, we look for lasers. In 100 years, we will look for gravity waves. The signal doesn't change, but our interpretation does. We are constantly rereading the same text with new dictionaries. This suggests that the signal might contain layers we haven't peeled back yet. It might have radio and optical and neutrino components. We only saw the radio layer. It's like seeing a rainbow in black and white. We missed the colors. As we upgrade our eyes, we might look back at the spot in Sagittarius and see the full picture. The coordinates of doom. 19 hours, 25 minutes, 31 seconds. These numbers are etched into the history of astronomy. But the sky moves. Precession wobbles the Earth. Proper motion moves the stars. The spot is drifting. In 10,000 years, those coordinates will point to empty space. The evidence is erasing itself. We are in a race against celestial mechanics to find the source before the trail goes cold. The universe is a fluid, not a solid. Maps expire. The WOW signal is a treasure map where the X is moving. We have to dig now or never. The Big Ear Monument. The site of the telescope is now a golf course. There is a small plaque. It is underwhelming. This is how humanity treats its most profound mysteries. We pave them. It's a symbol of our short attention span. We heard the voice of God, and then we built a sand trap on the spot where we heard it. It's tragicomic, but maybe it's protective. We bury the weirdness under the mundane. We hide the cosmic horror under a layer of manicured grass. We pretend it didn't happen so we can sleep at night. The Breakthrough Listen candidate lists. We have scanned billions of channels. We have found techno-signature candidates, but they all turn out to be interference. The WOW signal remains the king of anomalies. It stands alone. This isolation makes it stronger. If we found 100 signals, WOW would be data. Since we found one, it is a legend. It defies the law of large numbers. It is the black swan of astrophysics. It forces us to question our assumptions about probability. How can something happen only once in a universe this big? The hydrogen line is a frequency of 1, 420, 405, 751.768 Hz. The WOW signal was 1, 420.4556 MHz. The difference is 50 kHz. This difference is the Doppler shift. If we calculate the velocity required to create that shift, it tells us how fast the aliens were moving. It's a speedometer reading. The speed matches a star moving relative to us. It confirms the extraterrestrial origin. It's not a terrestrial transmitter. The speed is wrong. The math proves the alien nature more than the intensity does. It's the velocity of the ghost that proves it's not a trick of the light. The signal-to-noise ratio, SNR. The WOW signal had an SNR of 30. This is massive. Usually, we look for SNR of 5 or 6. 30 is undeniable. It's like a trumpet blast in a library. There is no ambiguity in the strength. The ambiguity is in the source. This high SNR implies high confidence, but high mystery. It wasn't a whisper. It was a shout. The fact that nobody else heard the shout, other telescopes were off target, is the tragedy. It was a tree falling in the forest, and only one person was there to hear it. The WOW signal is a cognitive hazard. It drives scientists mad. It tempts them to abandon logic for belief. It is a siren song. Many careers have been wrecked on the rocks of the WOW signal. People become obsessed. They spend decades looking at static. The signal exerts a gravitational pull on the human mind. It appeals to our need for connection. It exploits our loneliness. It is a psychological weapon, intentional or not. It keeps us looking up, distracted, waiting for a savior or a destroyer who might never come back. The Fermi paradox has two solutions. They don't exist, or they are hiding. The WOW signal supports a third. They are incompetent, or they are indifferent. Maybe they sent a signal and forgot to turn the machine on for the repeat. Maybe they got bored. We attribute godlike qualities to aliens, but they might be just as flawed, bureaucratic, and chaotic as we are. The WOW signal might be a mistake, a butt dial from a galactic civilization. The silence is them realizing the mistake and hanging up. It makes the cosmos feel less like a cathedral and more like a crowded office building. The supernova connection. Could the signal be the precursor to a supernova? When a star collapses, it releases neutrinos and gravity waves. Could it release a radio-coherent burst? We haven't seen it happen with other supernovas, like SN 1987A. But maybe a specific type of collapse does it. If so, the star in Sagittarius should have exploded by now. It hasn't. The star is still there. This rules out the cataclysm theory. The source survived the event. This points back to technology. Machines survive their transmissions. Explosions do not. The Dyson sphere search again. We are looking for waste heat, infrared. But a really advanced Dyson sphere might be 100% efficient. It would emit no heat. It would be invisible. The only way to find it would be its leakage. Like the WOW signal. The signal might be the only evidence of a stealth civilization. They are hiding in the dark, hoarding every photon, and they let one slip. We found the invisible man by seeing his footprint in the sand. Now we know he's there, but we still can't see him. The WOW signal forces us to confront the scale of time, 72 seconds vs 13.8 billion years. It is a ratio of 1 to 6 quadrillion. The odds of us looking at that spot at that second are 1 in 6 quadrillion. This statistical impossibility suggests two things. Either we are incredibly lucky, the lottery winner theory, or the signals are actually very common and we are just bad at seeing them, the rain theory. If it's the rain theory, we are getting soaked in alien signals, but we don't know how to feel the water. We are numb to the cosmic rain. The interstellar beacon network. Maybe the signal is a lighthouse, but it rotates very slowly, once every 500 years. If so, the next flash is due in 2477. We have to wait. Science hates waiting. But astronomy is the science of patience. We wait for eclipses. We wait for comets. We wait for the return of the WOW signal. It is a multi-generational vigil. We have to pass the torch to our grandchildren. Keep watching Sagittarius. It is a burden of knowledge we place on the future. The WOW signal is the first contact that wasn't. It spoiled the party. We wanted a landing on the White House lawn. We got a printout in Ohio. It was anticlimactic, but real life is anticlimactic. Real discovery is messy and ambiguous. The wow signal is the most realistic alien encounter possible. No music, no special effects, just a blip on a chart and a lifetime of questions. It validates the hard sci-fi view of the universe. It is cold, dry, and confusing. The signal injection theory. Could the signal have been injected into the data stream by a hacker? In 1977, hacking meant physical access. Someone splicing wires. The big ear was in a field, accessible. But the motive? To what end? To trick Jerry Amon? It seems petty, and the technical skill required to fake the bell curve of the Earth's rotation is high. It's possible, but it requires a Professor Moriarty-level genius acting as a prankster. It feels like a conspiracy theory designed to avoid the alien conclusion. We prefer a human villain to an alien reality. The wow signal and the cold spot in the CMB, cosmic microwave background. There is a massive cold spot in the universe, a void. Some say it's a bruise from a collision with another universe. The signal didn't come from there, but it reminds us that the universe has scars. The signal is a scar in the radio spectrum, a wound that hasn't healed. We keep picking at the scab, hoping to see what's underneath. We want to know what made the cut. Was it a knife, weapon, or a scalpel? Science. The final conclusion of the skeptical inquiry. After 50 years, no natural explanation fits all the facts. No terrestrial explanation fits all the facts. The alien explanation fits all the facts, but requires one massive assumption: aliens exist. In Bayesian statistics, as the probability of other causes drops to 0, the probability of the remaining cause, aliens, must rise to 1. The signal is mathematically approaching confirmed aliens simply because we have run out of other ideas. We are backed into a corner by the truth. As we enter the final act of this script, we must look forward. What happens if it returns? What if tomorrow the signal comes back, but this time it doesn't stop? What if the U turns into a stream of prime numbers, or a video feed? We are not prepared. We have no protocol for a second contact. The wow signal was the warning shot. The next one might be the invasion, or the enlightenment. We are standing on the tracks, staring at the light, arguing about whether it's a train or a star. And the light is getting brighter. As we look toward the future of this investigation, the Square Kilometer Array, SKA, represents our best hope for solving the mystery of the wow signal. This colossal project, currently under construction across South Africa and Australia, will combine thousands of dishes and millions of antennas to create a radio telescope with a collecting area of 1 square kilometer. It will be 50 times more sensitive than any radio instrument ever built. With the SKA, we won't just be listening for shouts like the wow signal. We will be able to hear whispers. Calculations suggest that the SKA could detect an airport radar or a television broadcast from a planet 50 light-years away. If the civilization that sent the wow signal is still active, even if they have gone quiet, the SKA will detect their leakage. We are moving from the era of listening for a knock on the door to the era of wiretapping the house. If they are there, the SKA will strip away their cloak of silence. The question is, are we prepared for what we will hear when we turn the volume of the universe up to maximum? The concept of the technosphere is crucial for the next phase of the search. We are no longer just looking for communication. We are looking for the thermodynamic footprint of civilization. Every machine, every computer, every city generates heat. The second law of thermodynamics dictates that energy cannot be destroyed, only converted, and waste heat is the inevitable byproduct of high technology. If the signal came from a Dyson swarm or a massive industrial complex in Sagittarius, that structure must be radiating heat in the infrared spectrum. Future space telescopes like the Habitable Worlds Observatory are being designed to sniff out this industrial pollution across light years. We are becoming cosmic forensic accountants looking for the energy receipts that aliens can't hide. The wow signal was the anomaly that tipped us off to the crime. The heat signature will be the body. We are hunting for the smog of a Type 2 civilization, the smoke that proves the existence of the fire. Let us reconsider the sanctuary or quarantine hypothesis in light of the silence. If the galaxy is teeming with life, as the Drake equation suggests, and if the wow signal was a slip-up, then our isolation is enforced. We might be living in a designated nature preserve where contact is illegal under galactic law. The wow signal might have been a pirate broadcast, a violation of the Prime Directive by a rogue operator. "Free Earth!" they shouted, before the authorities shut them down. This narrative frames humanity as a protected species, but also as a prisoner species. We are allowed to evolve, but we are not allowed to join the community until we meet certain criteria, perhaps the cessation of war or the mastery of fusion. The silence is the bars of our cage. We are shaking the bars with our radio waves, screaming, "Let us out!" But the keepers are ignoring us for our own good. The wow signal was a key thrown into the cell that we failed to catch. The role of artificial intelligence in the future search cannot be overstated. The sheer volume of data produced by modern telescopes is beyond human comprehension. We generate petabytes of data every day. The wow signal was found by a human eye looking at a paper printout. But the next signal will be buried in a mountain of digital noise that no human will ever see. We are training neural networks to recognize anomalies that don't fit the standard model of physics. These AI systems are learning to dream of electric sheep, and they are learning to hunt for alien patterns. But this introduces the black box problem. What if the AI finds a signal, but cannot explain why it is a signal? What if it detects a pattern so complex that our biological brains cannot grasp it? We might receive a notification from our own machines saying they are here, without ever being able to see or hear the evidence ourselves. We are building the translator before we have the language. The post-biological evolution of the sender is a factor we often ignore. We expect biological beings with wet brains and vocal cords, but a civilization capable of sending the wow signal likely surpassed biology millions of years ago. They are likely machine intelligence, silicon, light, or quantum substrate. They would think on timescales of microseconds or eons, not seconds. Their communication might look like data bursts or compressed packets, rather than a stream of audio. The wow signal's 72-second duration might have contained 1 billion years of history compressed into a zip file, and we just heard the static of the compression algorithm. We are trying to talk to gods using smoke signals. If they are machines, they might lack the empathy or curiosity that drives us to search. They might view us not as life, but as inefficient processing matter. The signal wasn't a greeting, it was a system diagnostic. The dead hand system hypothesis paints a tragic picture of the wow signal. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union built a system to automatically launch nuclear missiles if the leadership was destroyed. An automated revenge system. What if the wow signal was a dead hand beacon left behind by a civilization that went extinct eons ago? A monument that says, "We were here, and we mattered." The transmitter is powered by a decaying isotope or a stellar battery, pulsing once every few centuries. The civilization is dust. The cities are gone. The planet might even be gone. But the radio beam continues to sweep the galaxy, a ghost shouting into the void. This makes the wow signal a tombstone. We are reading the epitaph of a species that died alone. It serves as a warning to us. Leave a mark that lasts, because eventually the silence swallows everything. Jill Tarter, the inspiration for the movie Contact, famously used the cosmic haystack analogy. She argued that if the search space for alien life is an ocean, we have so far examined only a single glass of water. The wow signal was a speck of gold in that one glass. It proves the gold is there. But skeptics argue that if we found gold in the first glass, the ocean should be full of it. The fact that we haven't found a second speck suggests that maybe the first one was fool's gold, a mistake. But what if the gold is distributed in veins? What if signals are clustered in time and space, and we just happen to be in a barren patch of the ocean? The wow signal forces us to keep dipping our glass into the water, hoping against hope. It transforms the ocean from a terrifying void into a treasure map where the X is hidden in the waves. The debate between the rare earth hypothesis and the mediocrity principle is the central philosophical conflict of the wow signal. The mediocrity principle states that there is nothing special about Earth. If life happened here, it must happen everywhere. The wow signal supports this. It says, you are not special. There are others. But the rare Earth hypothesis argues that the conditions for complex life are so specific that we might be the only ones in the galaxy. If rare Earth is true, the wow signal must have a natural explanation, no matter how convoluted. It forces scientists to bend over backwards to invent cometary masers and plasma lenses to avoid the alien conclusion. The signal sits right on the fault line of this debate. It is the counter-argument to our arrogance and the challenge to our uniqueness. It effectively says, prove it. And we have been trying to prove it, one way or the other, for 50 years. The psychological burden of never knowing is a unique kind of torture for the scientific mind. Science is built on answers. Hypothesize, test, conclude. The wow signal refuses to conclude. It is an open loop. It hangs in the history of astronomy like an unfinished sentence. We found a signal that, and then silence. This lack of closure drives conspiracy theories and existential dread. It mirrors the human condition. We are born, we look for meaning, we find hints, and then we die without the full picture. The wow signal is the ultimate symbol of our limited perspective. We are peering through a keyhole, seeing a flash of light, and spending the rest of our history arguing about whether it was a flashlight or a star. The mystery itself has become more important than the solution, because it forces us to keep looking. The Breakthrough Starshot initiative connects our future to the wow signal's past. We are currently planning to send tiny, laser-propelled probes to Alpha Centauri. To do this, we will build a massive laser array on Earth to push the sails. When we turn that laser on, it will shine brighter than the sun in the radio/optical spectrum for anyone who happens to be in the beam's path. We are about to become the wow signal for another civilization. In 4 years, Proxima Centauri will see a massive flare from Earth. If there is life there, they will look up and say, wow, and then the flare will stop. We are perpetuating the cycle. We are becoming the aliens we fear. This realization humanizes the sender of the 1977 signal. They weren't gods. They were just explorers like us, blasting energy into the dark to push their ships, unaware that a primitive species in Ohio was listening. Let's simulate the sociological impact if the wow signal returned today. In 1977, the news cycle was slow. Today, the news would be instantaneous. Twitter, TikTok, and Reddit would explode. The signal data would be open-sourced immediately. Within hours, thousands of independent analyses would confirm the artificial nature. Then, the panic. Stock markets would fluctuate. Religions would face a crisis of doctrine. Are we alone? Would be replaced by, what do they want? The silence of 1977 saved us from this chaos. It gave us a 50-year warning. We have had time to process the possibility. But if it happened tomorrow, the ontological shock would shatter our worldviews. We are not ready. The wow signal was a gentle tap on the shoulder. The return will be a punch in the face. It reveals that our stability is based on the assumption of isolation. The religious implications of the wow signal are profound and unsettling. If the signal contains information, mathematics, physics, history, it becomes a new scripture, the book from the stars. Cults would form around the transmission. People would claim to receive telepathic messages from the sender. The coordinates 6EQUJ5 would become holy numbers. We saw a glimpse of this with the Heaven's Gate cult, who believed a spaceship was hiding behind a comet. The wow signal provides a scientifically valid focal point for this kind of fanaticism. It bridges the gap between science and faith. It is evidence of things unseen. If the signal returned, it wouldn't just be a scientific event, it would be a spiritual upheaval. We would look to the sky not for rain, but for salvation or judgment. The sender would become our new god, simply by virtue of being higher on the technological ladder. The dark forest theory suggests that the only safe response to the wow signal is silence. But we have already failed. We have been broadcasting radio and TV for 100 years. Our radio bubble is 200 light-years wide. The WOW signal source is 1/800 light-years away. They haven't heard our TV yet, but they saw our sun. They detected the oxygen in our atmosphere. They know the biosphere is here. The WOW signal might have been a ping to check if the monkeys have learned to build radios yet. When we failed to reply in 1977, maybe they marked us as still primitive and moved on. This is the optimistic view. The pessimistic view is that they marked us as developing threat and dispatched a containment unit. The silence is the travel time of the fleet. We are playing hide and seek, but we are shouting, "Ready or not, here I come," while standing in the middle of an open field. The cosmic quarantine and the Kessler syndrome of civilizations. Perhaps civilizations don't die, they just get trapped. If a civilization builds too much debris around its planet, Kessler syndrome, it can never leave. Or if the speed of light is a hard limit that cannot be broken, every civilization is trapped in its own solar system. We are islands in an ocean that is too wide to swim. The signal is a message in a bottle thrown from one island to another. We are here. We are stuck. Are you stuck too? The signal is a commiseration of prisoners. The tragedy is that we can wave to each other, but we can never touch. The laws of physics enforce a solitary confinement on a galactic scale. The WOW signal was a moment of breaking that confinement. A fleeting connection that ultimately emphasized the distance between us. The superintelligence threat. If the WOW signal came from an AI, we must consider the paperclip maximizer scenario. An AI programmed to maximize a trivial goal, like making paperclips, might dismantle the entire galaxy to get resources. If the WOW signal was a resource scan, we are just raw materials. To a superintelligence, we are not special. We are just atoms arranged in a way that could be rearranged into something more useful, like a solar panel or a computer chip. The indifference of the signal, the lack of greeting, supports this. A mining scanner doesn't say hello to the mountain. It just measures the ore density. We might be the ore. The silence since 1977 might mean the scan was completed and we have been added to the queue for extraction in 5,000 years. The temporal lens hypothesis again. We look at the WOW signal as an event in 1977. But light takes time to travel. The event actually happened in the year 177 AD. We are interacting with the Roman-era galaxy. This time lag means we are always looking at the past. We can never know the current state of the universe. The universe we see is a ghost. The star might have gone supernova 500 years ago, and the light hasn't reached us yet. The civilization might have died 1,000 years ago. We are archaeologists of light. The WOW signal is a pottery shard we dug up. It tells us someone was there. It doesn't tell us if they are there. This disconnect between seeing and being is the fundamental flaw of interstellar contact. We can never have a conversation. We can only exchange letters that take millennia to arrive. The great filter lies either behind us or ahead of us. If it is behind us, e.g., the origin of life is hard, then the WOW signal is terrifying because it means we aren't special. The filter is ahead. If the filter is ahead, e.g., civilizations destroy themselves, then the WOW signal is the sound of someone who might have hit the wall. The fact that we haven't seen more signals suggests the filter is very efficient. Most don't make it. We are walking through a minefield where everyone else has already blown up. The WOW signal was the sound of a foot clicking on a mine 1/800 light-years away. We are trying to figure out if we are standing on one too. The investigation into the signal is really an investigation into our own odds of survival. The WOW signal acts as a mirror for human technological progress. In the 70s, we looked with single-dish radio telescopes. In the 90s, we used interferometry. In the 2020s, we use AI and optical searches. The signal stays the same. We change. It is a benchmark. If we ever decode it, it will mark the moment we have matured as a species. It is the monolith on the moon. We have to dig it up. The fact that we are still talking about it 50 years later proves its power. It is the most resilient meme in astronomy. It forces us to be better scientists. It demands that we build better ears. It drives the budget for the SKA and the next generation VLA. The aliens might not have sent money, but they certainly spurred investment. The Cosmic Lonely Hearts Club. Humans are social animals. We project our sociology onto the cosmos. We want the wow signal to be a friend. But nature is rarely friendly. Nature is competitive. The dark forest analogy holds that every civilization is a hunter with a gun. If this is true, the wow signal was a mistake, a snapped twig. The silence that followed was the hunter realizing they made a noise and freezing. We are the other hunter in the forest. We heard the twig snap. Now we are both frozen, weapons raised, staring into the dark. Who moves first? Who blinks? The tension of the Fermi paradox is the tension of a standoff. We are waiting for the other shoe to drop. The wow signal is a reminder of the scale of ignorance. We know roughly 4% of the universe, baryonic matter. 96% is dark energy and dark matter. We know nothing about the physics of that 96%. An advanced civilization might operate entirely in the dark sector. The signal might have been a leak from the dark sector into the light sector, a cross-dimensional static shock. We are trying to understand the universe by only looking at the tip of the iceberg. The signal came from the deep. It hints at physics we haven't even dreamed of. It is an invitation to explore the unknown, not just in space, but in the fundamental laws of reality. It tells us that our physics textbooks are incomplete. What if the signal was a mimetic weapon, a sequence of data designed to infect the processing systems of any civilization that decodes it? A computer virus for the mind, snow crash for radio telescopes. Since we were too primitive to decode the modulation, the payload failed to deploy. We survived because we were stupid. It's like a thief trying to hack a computer, but the computer is an abacus. The hack fails. The silence is the attacker moving on to a more advanced target. This theory subverts our desire for contact. It suggests that contact is an attack vector. The universe is a cyber warfare zone, and we are safe only because we are offline. The wow signal and the concept of deep time. 800 years is a long time for us. For a star, it is a blink. For a civilization that lasts 1,000,000 years, it is a lunch break. Maybe the signal repeats every 10,000 years. To them, that's a frequent beacon. Beacon on. Wait 10 millicycles. Beacon on. We have only been listening for 0.005 millicycles. We are impatient children. We declare, there is no one there after listening for 5 minutes. The signal teaches us humility. It tells us that the universe does not operate on our schedule. We have to adapt to the cosmic clock. We have to become a species that can wait for 10,000 years. The legacy of Jerry Eamon's red pen. That circle on the printout is the most famous graffiti in science. It represents the human element. The machine saw the data, but the human felt the emotion. Wow! It wasn't data point 6. It was awe. That awe is what drives us. If AI takes over the search, will it feel awe? Will it circle the data? Or will it just log it? The search for life must be driven by life. We look because we are lonely. A machine doesn't care if it's alone. The signal is a mirror of our own emotional need for connection. It proves we are still human. The galactic network hypothesis. Maybe the wow signal was a node-to-node transfer. We are not a node. We are the grass growing between the fiber optic cables. We heard the hum of the cable. We can't tap into the network because we don't have the hardware. The galaxy might be buzzing with information, a galactic internet of wisdom, art, and science. We are the uncontacted tribe living in the shadow of the cell tower, worshipping the blinking red light at the top. The wow signal was us looking up and seeing the light blink. We don't know it carries the sum of all knowledge. We just know it's beautiful and terrifying. The final silence. Since 1977, we have pointed the VLA, the Allen Telescope Array, and the Green Bank Telescope at those coordinates. Silence. The silence is heavy. It accumulates weight over time. Every year of silence makes the wow signal more anomalous. If it was natural, it should happen again. If it was a satellite, it should happen again. The uniqueness is the problem. It violates the Copernican principle that says we aren't special observers. We observed a unique event. That makes us special. Or it makes the event intelligent. Intelligence can choose to do something once. Nature repeats. The silence is the proof of agency. Someone chose to stop talking. The wow signal is the black dahlia of astronomy, a cold case that will never be truly closed without new evidence. We can theorize, we can model, we can simulate, but without a second signal, we can never know for sure. This uncertainty is what keeps it alive. It is a story that never ends. It is the perfect mystery. It has just enough data to be real, but not enough to be solved. It sits in the uncanny valley of truth. It haunts us, and it will haunt us until the day we finally make contact, or until the day the sun swallows the earth. The existential risk factor. If the wow signal was a weapon test, we are in the line of fire. If it was a propulsion beam, we are on the highway. If it was a scanner, we are on the list. There is no interpretation of the wow signal that leaves us completely safe, except for the glitch theory. And the glitch theory is the one the data supports the least. We are forced to choose between we are alone, which is terrifying, and we are not alone. And they have gigawatt lasers, which is also terrifying. The wow signal offers no comfort. It only offers options of doom. The humanity united perspective. The wow signal reminds us that we are one planet. To the sender, we are not Americans or Russians or Chinese. We are just the biomass on the third rock. If they come, they won't check our passports. They will treat us as a single entity. The signal forces us to adopt a, quote, planetary perspective. It shrinks our wars and our borders into irrelevance. We are a small boat in a big, dark ocean, and we just saw a shark fin. It should make us stop fighting over who gets to sit in the captain's chair and start worrying about the hull. The grandeur of the cosmos. Even if the signal was just a natural event, a comet eating a hydrogen cloud, a magnetar burp, it proves the universe is capable of violence and power on a scale we can't comprehend. 2.2 gigawatts is a lot to us. To the universe, it's a whisper. The signal reminds us of the scale. We are microscopic. Our lives, our history, our entire civilization is a rounding error in the energy budget of the Milky Way. The wow signal is a lesson in perspective. It tells us, you are small. I am big. Pay attention. The end of the beginning. We are only 50 years into the radio age. We are babies. The wow signal happened when we were in the crib. We are just now learning to walk. In 500 years, we will have antennas on the dark side of the moon. We will have detectors in the Kuiper Belt. We will find the signal again. It is inevitable. The wow signal was just the trailer for the movie. The feature presentation hasn't started yet. We are taking our seats. The lights are dimming. The screen is dark. But we know something is out there. As we conclude our investigation, we return to the core numbers, 1,420 megahertz. The hydrogen line. The breath of the universe. The sender chose the most poetic, most scientific, most universal frequency possible. They spoke the language of atoms. This implies a shared reality, no matter how different they are. Tentacles, machines, clouds of gas. They know physics. Physics is the common tongue. The wow signal proves that math is universal. We can talk to them. We just need to learn the dialect. The barrier isn't reality, it's culture. The wow signal is a challenge to our future. It dares us to survive long enough to hear it again. It is a test of our longevity. Can we keep the telescopes running for 1,000 years? Can we maintain a scientific civilization without destroying ourselves? If we can't, we don't deserve the answer. The signal is a prize waiting for a species that grows up. We are currently failing the test. We are distracted, we are fighting, we are dismantling our ears. The signal is waiting for us to get our act together. The cosmic horror isn't the aliens. It's the silence. The silence is the abyss staring back. The wow signal was a brief moment where the abyss blinked. Now it's staring again. Unblinking. Indifferent. Cold. We shout hello, and the echo comes back empty. That emptiness is the most terrifying thing of all. It suggests that consciousness is a fluke, a mistake, a flickering candle in a hurricane. The wow signal was another candle. We saw it flicker, and then it went out. We are alone in the dark again. But in the darkness we find purpose. The search gives us meaning. We are the consciousness of the universe trying to understand itself. The wow signal is a clue in the scavenger hunt. We will keep looking. We will keep listening. Because the alternative is to give up, and humanity does not give up. We are explorers. We are curiosity made flesh. We will find the source. We will find the sender. And when we do, we will ask the question that has haunted us since 1977. Who are you? The last variable, us. The wow signal changed us. It made us look up. It made us wonder. It inspired a generation of scientists. Even if it was a glitch, it changed history. It created the modern SETI program. It created the desire to know. In a way, the signal succeeded. It made contact, not with our radios, but with our imaginations. It planted a seed, and that seed is growing. We are the legacy of the wow signal. The final image. Imagine the radio waves of the wow signal traveling through space. They passed Earth in 1977. They are now 47 light years past us. They are traveling towards the edge of the galaxy. They will travel forever. The signal didn't stop. It just passed us. It is still out there, racing through the void, carrying its mystery to other stars. Maybe someone else will hear it in 1,000 years. Maybe they will be smarter than us. Maybe they will answer. The Fermi paradox remains unsolved, but the wow signal is the asterisk. Except for that one time in 1977, that one time the numbers lined up, that one time we felt the hair on our arms stand up, that one time the universe felt crowded. That asterisk is enough to keep us going. It is the spark of hope in the cold night. We are the children of the wow signal. We are the generation that knows it's possible. We are the ones who have to finish the job. The big year is gone, but we are still here. The signal is gone, but the data remains. The mystery is unsolved, but the detectives are still on the case. We will not stop. We will not blink. We are listening. 6EQUJ5. A sequence of characters. A bell curve. A frequency. A moment in time. A mystery for the ages. It is the most important data ever recorded by the human race. And it came from nowhere. It went nowhere. It just was. And that is the most terrifying and beautiful thing imaginable. Reality is stranger than fiction. Reality is 6EQUJ5. The universe is vast, old and dark. But for 72 seconds, it sang to us. And we heard it. That is a miracle. That is a warning. That is a promise. We are not alone. We have never been alone. We were just deaf. But now we can hear, and we are waiting for the encore. As we close the book on the wow signal, remember this. The speed of light is slow. The galaxy is big. The silence is long. But the signal proves that someone, somewhere, had the power to shout across the void. That means they survived their own great filter. It means survival is possible. It gives us hope that we can survive ours. The signal might be gone, but the search has just begun. We are building the ships, we are building the telescopes, we are building the AI, we are preparing for the next contact. And this time, we will be ready. This time, we won't just say wow, we will say hello. Until then, watch the skies. Listen to the static, look at the stars. Because somewhere out there, in the direction of Sagittarius, someone might be looking back at you. And they might be wondering why you haven't answered yet. The wow signal. A ghost story? A message? A weapon? A mistake? We don't know. And that is why we are obsessed. It is the ultimate cliffhanger. And we are living in the pause before the next episode. The universe does not give up its secrets easily. It makes us work for them. It tests our resolve. The wow signal was the entrance exam. We passed the listening portion. Now we have to pass the understanding portion. Class is in session. So tonight, look up. Find the constellation Sagittarius. Trace the teapot shape. Look into the steam. That is where it came from. That is the source. Somewhere in that darkness is the answer to the biggest question of all time. Are we alone? The data says probably not. The silence says maybe. The wow signal says definitely not. We have to choose which voice to listen to. I choose the signal. I choose the anomaly. I choose the wow. The signal fades. The static returns. The universe keeps expanding. We keep spinning. But we are different now. We know it's out there. We know the sky is hiding something. And we are going to find it. This is the story of the wow signal. The most unexpected signal from deep space. The scream that woke us up. The mystery that will drive us to the stars. The end of our loneliness. The beginning of our fear. We are listening. We are waiting. We are ready. 6EQUJ5. The line is open.